Oh boy. Oh boy. Too bad Cat can't say that. But then again, I guess if you're Wings' wife Kelly, I guess she can't say it either. So failure all around, ladies and gentlemen. Failure all around. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. This is DSP News, the unreliable ones. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the newsroom and welcome to the Goutopia News Network, your unreliable source for DSP News. This is the Snort Report brought to you by SnortBucks Coffee Company, the best beverage company ever. Let's go. Okay, hopefully you guys are doing well. This is supposed to be out on the 14th. It's not going to be. Why is it not going to be? Well, one, I got some shit for work that's coming up and whatnot, and I gotta really kind of like lock in on that shit. It's a priority, right, Phil? Priorities, stuff, you know, whatever. Two, Battlefield 6 beta. That's a priority too. that's a bit of a priority too. So like so that's a thing. So this might not actually come out until after the 14th. I guess that's the only thing I can really tell you. Anywho, yeah, so that's a thing. So Battlefield, work, stuff. So there you go on that. With that being said though, I did say I was gonna do it, so we're doing it. And we're still gonna make this happen either which way because that's what we do. Womp womp. So, why? Another reason, actually, let me be very clear about this. Another reason why this isn't coming out on the 14th is because I could have just used the Vic Vosh rendition of this, which that'll be linked down in the description. But I wanted the pre-stream that actually happened before this. And because I wanted to be a stickler about details, I have costed myself. And that's a thing. So, womp womp to that. Anywho, you know what I'm saying? I do it for the love of the game. So in any case, let's get into what our situation is, and let's start that off by getting into my favorite segment. Hopefully, one of your guys, or some of you guys, or maybe most of you guys, favorite segment. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my TED Talk. So, I am hoping between now and the end of the year that we can go through all three of these segments. We're going to be going over EVO 2005, or at least DSP's rendition of it. Now, if you guys saw I'll name this segment later, you guys actually watched it in detail. How much of you guys actually made it through that? I can't blame you if you didn't. DSP is something. But in any case, though, I wanted you guys to get context. Now we're going to actually go over it, and now it's going to actually be fun. That being said, he did a 2016 wrap-up, if you will, of his experiences. We're going to go over that. Vic Vosh has that one and whatnot. So when you go through the link to his channel, you should find that there as well. And then there's the 2017. I know he did it. I can't find it. I will eventually find it. And then we will go from there. Pretty sure it's on King of Hate Vlogs, which is now DSP Reacts, I think. So I'm sure it's over there somewhere. And whatnot. If it's not in a Hate Live, it's in a... if it's not in a Hate Live, it's more to likely in a King of Hate or Ask the King segment. Something along those lines. I'll find it. So that's our next plans as it pertains to that. And I am continuing, as you guys I'm sure can see, waging my campaign of hate against DSP and his FGC career, or lack thereof, if you will. And I found some interesting stuff going back through the old stuff and shit. A lot of contradictions. He did a lot of contradictions early. He admitted a lot of the hate that he gets against them, or a lot of people that are trying to discredit him, which works against his current narrative where people liked him, people respected him. He had changed from being a troll to someone who tried to use his power for good, whatever. So, funny stuff to be had. In any case, for those of you who didn't see, I'll name this segment later, we'll actually just go over this in real time and just get it all banged out and turn that into a thing. So there you go. Let's see here. Let's actually set the scene. Let's do that. Thing. I think that's a good thing. Here we go. Nice. You know what I'm saying? Nice, comfortable, slightly dark. You know what I'm saying? Just like how Kat and Kelly like it. Anyway, and Brandy. Let's not forget Brandy. She liked it like that too, right, Wings? Right, Wings? Right, Wings? Right. Anywho, let's see here. Let's go ahead and mount up. Taking you guys back to 2014, I believe, is when all this nonsense happened. So that's a thing.
Of our podcast.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and set our scene. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here Unfortunately, like I said, I should have just gone with the Vic Vosh rendition of it. But big ups to them. We are here with two videos that will make up our broadcast. The first one's incredibly short. The links to these will be down in the description too, because love of the game. Anyway, let's see. We're here with King of Hate Vlogs, or formerly King of Hate Vlogs, now known as DSP Reacts. Pre-stream from June 5th of 2014 Hate Live podcast. Should be a great show. And then the second and last thing, what we're really here for, Hate Live podcast episode 10, June 5th. Moving news. I actually have, that's not going to be there. Diggs removed that, but we're going to save that for later. Trust me, that's going to be, there's some interesting details in there that even I had to re-remember. So that'll be for later. And then EVO 2K5 special. So there we go. Now we got the landscape up. We got our ambiance in place. Got our video in question. I don't smell no bacon cooking. Been a while since I had a chance to say that. I need to get an insert for that. But in any case, enough of that. Let's not talk about what we don't have. Let's talk about what we do have. We have good drinks. We have each other. We have somebody to laugh at. we in the building. So, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, well, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I forgot to say that too. My bad. But anyway, here we go. Oh, and we got, and for those of you who are getting a chance to play the Battlefield beta, we got Battlefield 6. So there's that. That's something to be somewhat thankful about. Here we go. Oh, wait a second. Before I pull the trigger on that, let's get rid of that, because if not, that's going to cause an echo. And then people are going to be mad at me. Lord knows we need anybody else being mad at us. Here we go. Here we go. The fuck?
My fighting game days of our podcast. And the Hate Live section, I think, is going to be a fan favorite, especially for those of you who like to hear about me and my fighting game days. I've decided that this entire Hate Live back in the day segment will be dedicated to my attendance of Evolution 2005. Now, I attended many Evolutions, including the first one. I attended the tournament before Evolution that they were holding every year. I attended EVO
B5 or Battle by the Bay.
2005 through 2007, and I have not been back since. But 2005, definitely out of all the years that I attended EVO, had to be my most noted one. Because basically...
Because you were a bum, you were a fuck up, you ain't sat there and had the fucking max out credit cards, the fucking traveling shit. Like, it's wild that he put... I want you to really think about this. It's wild that he fucking put rent, basically getting, day-to-day necessities, food, all of that shit was back burner just so he could go to EVO 2005. And then he didn't win, right? So what the fuck did he do when he got back? Mommy and daddy had to pick up the pieces. So he was never really in any danger, hence the reason why he did it in the first place. Semantics. There's so much to cut up. I have so many wonders to share with you guys. Trust me. Here we go.
It was a time when, in my life, things were fluctuating, things were changing. I was kind of faced with some tough decisions at the time. And at the time...
Yeah, instead of paying my bills, I want to play video games in front of a bunch of people who don't like me. Hope that's enough to earn their respect. Yeah, that's investing in yourself, Phil. Well played, sir. Well played.
I didn't know if what I was doing was the right decision, quite honestly. You'll understand what I'm talking about when I talk about this tonight. But the fact that I went out there and basically...
Oh, yet again, this is from June 5th of 2014, by the way. Just want to put that out there.
Got the highest ranking of any American in the original game that made Street Fighter competitive, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. Turned a lot of heads. It left a bad taste in some people's mouth. Other people, still to this day will not stop making excuses and still say that every time that I ever did well in a tournament that it was a fluke.
Which it was. But it's funny that you really didn't do well after that. When we're talking about EVO itself, you know what I'm saying, the main EVO tournament, not qualifiers, not that lame ass shit he tries to prop himself up with now. But when we're talking about actual EVO tournaments and EVO placings, he never was able to meet or exceed that 2005 placement. So it was a fluke. But he'll muddy the waters, as DSP does, with his own pig shit and his own delusion and whatnot, and his own ego to try to save himself. It's funny to watch.
Even though I thought a fluke is something that happens once, not multiple times, because...
Did you place at, did you take 4th place at EVO 2006? No. 2007? No. And you said that was your last time. And you said that was your highest placement up till 2005. So you never placed that high before 2005 and you never did afterwards. Yeah, I think that's a fluke. Pretty sure that's what that is. And of course, we'll get into the details about it being an inferior port, right? You know what I'm saying? Mickey Mouse Club type shit. I think people have a grounds to stand on. They still do.
Fluke means that it's something that's not normal and doesn't happen in a pattern, but I guess people don't seem to understand that. You know, they've been discrediting me ever since. But today we will be talking all about my experience heading out to EVO 2005, the venue, the people.
And you know what's even funnier? And Phil doesn't recognize this because he's stupid. But if DSP was to get into a conversation with Max or Justin, you know, like a podcast type setting, if he brings this up, what exactly does he expect them to say to him? Let me say that again. What does DSP expect Justin or Max to say to him about this? Oh, well, people have discredited my 2005 placement for 2 decades now, and I don't understand what's going on. Do you think it's legitimate? You took 4th, Phil. Like, you took 4th. What were they supposed to do? Acknowledge you for 4th place? You didn't even take 3rd. You took 4th. Bronze, participation medal type shit. Bitch, this ain't the Olympics. I mean, this might be the Special Olympics for you, but this ain't the Olympics. What the hell? Oh man, so sad. So sad. Did they even give out trophies back in those days for 4th? I feel like they do now. But like I said, everybody gets a participation trophy now, though. Or a medal. I don't know if they got anything back in those days. I feel like they didn't. Because if they did, he would hoist that shit as high as he hoists that Tekken tournament trophy that he has from the mall. At least one would think, anyway.
You know, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I want to thank you guys for being here tonight. It's going to be a good stream. I'm going to do my best to have the stream end by 11 p.m. So that's roughly 2 hours from now. So this pre-stream is not going to be very long. So I just have to say, oh well, to people who show up late. They're just going to miss the beginning of the show because I've got stuff to get to, right? In addition to that... Okay.
Phil does the weird-ass lean-in manuals and shit. I'm telling you, the way DSP does anything is the way he does everything, and he doesn't change. Like I said, change starts up top in your noodle and whatnot. It's not your actions per se. It's part of it, but it's your thinking. But, you know, DSP is what he is.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Welcome to segment 2 of Hate Live, which is the Back in the Day segment. And tonight we've got a very, very special episode of Back in the Day. Because for the very first time, I'm opening up and being honest about Evolution 2005.
So you were lying up to this point? Okay.
This is an event that for many people they thought was highly controversial. I'll explain why. And, it's a very unique situation, a unique time in my life for what was going on. The years of 2005 through 2007 were the years where I was incredibly into and dedicated to Street Fighter. I was playing it all the effing time. My free time was all Street Fighter. My travel was all Street Fighter. All my money for my, went into this hobby that was Street Fighter. And in the year 2005, to give you guys some perspective,
actually, before he gets into his pig shit, I want you to really think about this for a minute. Like you said, his whole life revolved around Street Fighter. And more importantly, trying to prove his self-worth to a bunch of people in the FGC, right? I want you to really think about it. This guy, for years, spent time, money, try to ingratiate himself, try to pay people to hang out with him, try to do try to invite people out to chase after 14-year-old girls, and all kinds of other fucking weird-ass pedo shit. He spent years trying to basically force people or prey upon people or try to empathize or sympathize with people to be friends with him, to like him, to acknowledge him, to appreciate him. I want you to think about that. And all of that culminated in 2008 with him actually bringing all of that to YouTube. And then look at where we got with it. Or look at how far he got, I should say, with that. I want you to really take that into account. You have this really pathetic, great screenshot, by the way. This kind of really helps visualize what I'm trying to say here. You have this really sad, pathetic, lonely individual, right? Who had never been nothing about nothing in his life. The FGC gave him his first and probably only chance. He failed at that miserably, as well as made a shitload of enemies as he walked through the door, and damn sure as they were kicking his ass out of it. Only to bring that same vitriol and nonsense to YouTube and then expound upon that and make shit even worse for himself. I want you to take that in. And so when people put out the meme that, you know, Mike Watson and Jaha should have finished the job, in some ways, I'm one of those people, by the way, just for the shits and giggles of it. And on one hand, I agree with that 100%. You know what I'm saying? Because a good ass whipping will straight anybody out. The next minute, though, is what would DSP have been like if he had taken that beating? Would it have made him even more belligerent? Or would he have actually straightened up? Because to be honest with you, that situation with Jaha and Mike Watson, I think, explains why he don't leave his house now. All he's done is, he didn't learn from that situation per se. He's been now conditioned to stay on my soapbox, try to get everybody who clips me so shit doesn't get spread out, and stay home and only leave once a week, and make sure to publicize it, right? But don't say where I'm going, just in case I need to call the cops, or I can use this on YouTube later on for sympathy, as well as hopefully get those people removed, or the people who signal boosted, if you will, the alleged harassment against me, and just go from there. So he's doing the same shit that he did back in the FGC days, to be honest. He's just doing it in a different way. And he's secured himself behind the great walls of the fucking Snort fort in the hopes that no one will ever be able to get close enough to him to put hands on him to finally give him his just, air quotes, just desserts. It's a really interesting situation. Like I said, instead of just being better and doing better, he just reverted back in. You know what I'm saying? He basically turned that shit into his modified turtle show, and he just stays in there. But he has the nerve to call out people like John and Howard and say they should be men and reach out to me. Or he calls LTG a bitch for not wanting to do nothing with him, right? He throws back slaps at Justin and fucking Max because they won't talk to him. And yet, look at where he's at. Look at what he's done. Look at what he's resorted to. Who's the real coward in all this? Who's the real bitch in all this? Who's the one who really lacks any type of masculinity whatsoever? Really makes you think.
I've been traveling around and playing in certain tournaments regionally in around the East Coast. And in particular, I have been trying to play Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. That's the game that started it all and really made Street Fighter a competitive force on the map. Up to Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, there were different versions of Street Fighter 2 that had been released, but never had anyone really said, wow, this game feels balanced. This game really feels like this is a tournament-level game. And finally, that game it introduced so many things like supers.
Now, keep in mind, of course, I got to put this out here. We didn't give a shit about tournaments or even playing competitively until after the murder of T, by the way. The murder, by the way, that DSP takes responsibility for. He says himself, hey, if I had done this and this and this, maybe T had lived. He's the one that put that on himself, not me. I'll do it now because he already did it. But he's the one who put that on himself. Keep that in mind. He's the one who ain't sat there and cried his alligator tears over some bullshit and whatever. He's the one who let his friend die in the middle of the street like that. That's on him. He put that on himself.
Supers. For the very first time, you could have a super.
But it is very strange how we had to wait till T. Carter was up and out the picture that now we want to go out there and now we can step out. Now we can shine. Now we can go out there and get our blow up. That seems weird. In all seriousness now, that seems weird. That seems like the Gouty Viper was sitting there and waiting until the main competition that was out of the way, someone for sure he knew he couldn't beat, someone he knew for sure would definitely get cheers or be cheered against him. It seems like things kind of, what is it the DSP says? You ask and you shall receive. I'm not saying he prayed for T's downfall. I'm not saying that. I am saying I wouldn't put that past him. Womp womp.
Super move that you get by fighting and getting hit and also doing combos and stuff. You tech hit throws where when you get thrown you can reduce the damage or escape the throw. All those are concepts, all introduced by that game.
Nice snort. Also, if you listen to him and how he describes the game and how revolutionary it was, but yet still was a part of the lineage of ground roots of Street Fighter itself and of Capcom, you can understand why he put so much emphasis on his 4th place finish and why he wanted to win that tournament so badly. Even at that time, a game that was dying out, you can kind of understand why he was so desperate to have himself cemented in that history. Because it's not just the history of EVO, it's not just the history of Street Fighter, but it's the foundation of fighting games in general, which DSP considers to be Capcom. That's what, in his head, that's what he was fighting for and hoping to gain. Just take it for what it is. Holy shit. Take it for what it is.
And so that game kind of became the quintessential top of the heap when it came to competitive fighting games. Now, this is a funny story. I didn't play that game when it was new. When that game was new, my local arcade didn't get it. I was busy playing other games that had come out in the meantime, like Mortal Kombat and Killer Instinct and stuff like that.
Now, we know that's a lie because DSP has talked plenty of times about playing Street Fighter in the arcade. Him and T used to play Street Fighter a lot. Now, he's saying that, Super Turbo wasn't available and whatnot. Now, whether it was or whether it wasn't, I can't speak to that. But there was a variation of Street Fighter, obviously, that he had readily available to him. He talked about it. Remember that infamous story about the first time he was brought to the arcade and whatnot, Daddy Brunel, and sat there and put him up on a stool, or he held him up, or whatever the fuck the story was. And he was beating everybody with E Honda because no one could get past his 100 hand slap, allegedly. So that's okay. Phil's a bit gin-brained, even back then. But he may not remember his full story. You know what I'm saying? And yet again, I'm pretty confident Super Street Fighter 2 had an arcade release. I know I've seen pictures of it at the very least. And I'm pretty sure Super Turbo obviously has an arcade release too. And it'd be kind of wild that in his own words, a very popular arcade wouldn't have that. Semantics.
And it wasn't until much later that my arcade got things like Street Fighter Alpha 1, Alpha 2, Alpha 3, and then I got back into Street Fighter 3, and of course the Versus series, Marvel vs. Capcom, X-Men vs. Street Fighter, etc., etc.
Let me call out another thing too. So he talked about how, his arcade didn't have it, but yet again, when he was a youngin', even younger than what his story is saying, he used to play Street Fighter at that arcade, whatever. But let me also put out, there was 2 arcades DSP used to play at in or around Connecticut at that time. Let me keep that in mind. And because DSP is quick to conflate details and shit, I just need to put that out there. 2, DSP himself said that he didn't play a lot of Mortal Kombat or some of these other games. He didn't say he didn't play them, but he said he didn't play a lot of them because they weren't very popular. It was the Capcom games that reigned supreme. Just throwing it out there. Just for context.
So, excuse me. So, I didn't play any console games at all during this era. I missed out on the entire, PS2 era of gaming because I was so busy playing Street Fighter.
So much for being a lifelong gamer then, huh? So many revelations. Gotta tell you, Phil. Was this like the early stages of a T-pose? What is this, Phil? Couldn't lift your arms above your shoulders at this point?
Now, in particular, I liked Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
You know what's crazy? How is it that he has more mass, for whatever that's worth? How is it that you got more mass on you in 2014 than you do now in 2025? That's wild. Looks like a walking skeleton now. Like a fatty skeleton, I guess. But Like, his arms don't look shit now. They don't look shit back then either, but they damn sure don't look like shit now. What happened to you? What happened? All this because the people online called you fat? Holy shit. Doesn't mean you have to starve yourself, Phil. You can go outside and walk. You can exercise. These are things that are available to you. Didn't you say you have a treadmill in the house? Which I'm guaranteeing is a lie. And if that's the case, why doesn't Kat use it? Remember, you fucked up her exercise bike, but you said that you have like a treadmill or some type of stepper or some bullshit at the house now because you use it. Or you used to talk about it. You don't talk about it now. But last year, you used to speak about it quite highly. Maybe most people don't remember that, but Pepperidge Farms remembers.
And I liked Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. I was not as good at Marvel vs. Capcom 2 as I was at Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, but I actually played it more. So at the time, I had been traveling to places like Texas and Philadelphia and stuff like that. I would go all around the country traveling and participating in these tournaments. And incidentally, it was around this time period when I met John Rambo for the first time, and we became friends and later on travel companions going to all those tournaments. But that's not the point of this story. The point of this story is, in the year of 2005...
It's actually a bit of a contradiction because he said that he didn't meet John until after 2005. Let me be more specific about this. He didn't actually meet John until after the 2005 EVO tournament. That's when he met John. That's when he got introduced to the rest of the Connecticut crew and so on and so forth. So he's kind of conflating his own story here. Semantics. I want to bring back when he talks about Marvel 2. Remember, you know that walking ATM thing I've been telling y'all for years? I want to bring this back up.
Instinct and stuff like that, and it wasn't until much later that my arcade got things like Street Fighter Alpha 1, Alpha 2, Alpha 3, and then I got back into Street Fighter 3, and of course the Versus series, Marvel vs. Capcom, X-Men vs. Street Fighter, etc., etc. So, excuse me. So, I didn't play any console games at all during this era. I missed out on the entire, like, PS2 era of gaming because I was so busy playing Street Fighter. Now, in particular, I liked Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and I liked Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. I was not as good at Marvel vs. Capcom 2 as I was at Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, but I actually played it more. So at the time, I had been traveling to places like Texas and Philadelphia and stuff like that. I would go all around the country traveling and participating in these tournaments. And incidentally, it was around this time period when I met John Rambo for the first time, and we became friends and later on travel companions going to all those tournaments. But that's not the point of this story.
Now, I'm pretty sure it's in this. I thought we just passed it, but we didn't. But he talks about him going to play Marvel and him basically losing all the fucking time, which is hilarious. Walking ATM. Remember this. But also, DSP doesn't mention doesn't mention CVS2 or Third Strike at all here. This is important because amongst the big four in Capcom, it pertains to fighting games at that time, right? Got Marvel vs. Capcom 2, which is at the top of the heap. It was the final game of EVO for years. Then you had CVS2, then you had Third Strike, then you had Super Turbo. You don't hear nothing about CVS2 right here. You don't hear nothing about Third Strike. But DSP swears to God, he was right in there in the mix with all that shit. Matter of fact, the same ass clown is the one who told Triforce on the SRK forums that he had no right to be commenting on anything that was going on in the Third Strike forums because he didn't play. He wasn't a top player. He had no business being there. DSP wasn't either. So what the fuck's he doing there? DSP is sitting here now in current day, LARPing, talking about how he was pretty good at CVS2. You know, he played it every once in a while, this, that, and third. He ain't mentioning shit about it right here. He's telling you right here that he only played 2 games. And that was Super Turbo and Marvel vs. Capcom 2. I just thought I'd put that out there for clarification. I thought I'd just put that out. A PSA, if you will. Just trying to be nice. And I'm serving the next round of SnortBucks, by the way, so put your orders in.
The point of this story is, in the year of 2005, it was a unique and really tumultuous year for me because I had moved out of my parents' house, got a 3-bedroom apartment that I was sharing with 2 roommates in more northern Connecticut. It is actually still southern Connecticut, but it's the northern part of southern Connecticut because I wanted to move next to my job. At the time, I was working for a place called Wells Fargo Finance.
Now, yet again, ladies and gentlemen, I said that the way DSP does anything is the way he does everything. He did that same thing for the helicopter company. Or Skorsky. You guys know. But the helicopter company did the same thing. Once he got that job, he bought the condo so he could be closer to it. And that's what DSP's always done. He's always had a history, if he's not living at home, to being as close to his job as possible, believing in some way that that's him showing his commitment to said job. The reality is either he's scared to drive, he's not a very good driver, or he has to carpool with people. We'll talk more about that later, but that is a thing, by the way. And if I'm and he said he worked at Wells Fargo. No, actually, I don't know if that's the same story though. I'm not sure if that's the same story. Let me hold off on that. But so that's yeah, I don't think that's the same story, because I thought when he worked at Wells Fargo, he had 2 male roommates at that time, and they were asking him to go out clubbing with them or go out to the bars, and he would just sit at home and play Street Fighter instead. That might be another set of roommates though. Excuse me. No, I didn't think about it. No, that actually has to be this. That has to be these 2 roommates here. The whole situation that I'm talking about now is the carpooling thing, which that's a whole nother kerfuffle in itself and shit. And that might actually have been one of the lead reasons why he got fired from it wasn't from Wells Fargo, it was whatever banking institution that he was with at that time. But semantics. We'll tackle that when we get there.
It was a place that gave out mortgages, credit cards, personal loans. But the catch here, which...
Oh, another thing too about this story is interesting. So you worked in an institution, you worked in a career field where you saw people who misappropriated their finances, being credit cards, savings, checking, all that shit. And you turned around and did all the same shit later. Imagine that. All the mistakes that he saw people do, he made those same mistakes himself. And somehow, some way, he was just fortunate enough to get a bankruptcy and get a fresh start. Keep that in mind.
They didn't disclose to me when I was getting hired, is that it was basically mostly to people with bad credit, and we gave incredibly high interest rates, but the catch was we would give it to people with incredibly bad credit, and what we would do...
Why would they disclose that to you? Hey, we're in the business of preying upon people. Are you going to be okay with that? Stop. Stop. Did the credit card companies that you applied to, the 13 or 14, pretty sure it's 14, the 14 credit card companies you applied to, did they sit there and say, hey, Phil, we're giving you these huge interest rates and shit because we know that you have a history of bad credit responsibility? You're okay with that, right? You sure you're gonna be okay with this balance? You know what I'm saying? You're gonna be all right, buddy? Okay, cool. The fuck? The hell? Oh my god, autistic as shit.
Is, let's say, for example, these people...
Not even autistic, just stupid. Just outright fucking stupid. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what the fuck? Like, at any job, there's good or bad. You know what I'm saying? Like, the dude who flips burgers, for example, or whatever. Like, fast food, right? Do you think that they're out there to fucking give people high cholesterol? No. But it happens. Especially if people fucking, you know, abuse eating too much fast food or whatever. Are they inherently at fault for that? No. Same thing with the banks. People come for loans and shit. Yes, there's an assessment on whether they can make it or not, but you know what I'm saying? You should be glad that they take those risks back in those days, because I don't think they do it for people now. And Jesus Christ, Phil, how many fucking mortgage companies did you go to, Phil, until you could finally get a loan for the house in Washington State? If I remember correctly, it was 3 of them. And I think the person who actually gave it up to you was like a predatory type shit. Like, they caught you lacking, but you were desperate though. But you're supposed to be smarter than everybody else. You worked in an institution that preyed upon people, according to you, preyed upon people. So how did you fall into that same situation? Semantics.
Really are in dire straits. They can't pay their bills anymore. They've got $20,000 in credit card debt. They have no money to pay.
Sounds like DSP right before the bankruptcy. Of course, the 20,000 was 140, 150,000, but semantics.
And so all their bills are past due. We would give them loans for...
Oh, and don't forget, DSP took out either 2 or 3 business loans also. So keep that in mind. Just to prop up a YouTube channel. He did this when he was in Washington State. I'm pretty sure it's 3, because I'm pretty sure he took out 2 of them, and then he had Panda take out 1. But it could have been just 2. We'll see. So keep that in mind. All to prop up a YouTube channel. Keep that in mind.
Up to almost 100% of the value of their house to pay off their credit cards. And of course, we'd charge them an exorbitant amount of money in interest to do it. But for them, they would see it as savings. Hey, at least we can now make the payment monthly and we're not going delinquent and it's not killing our credit. The problem was two things.
Now, keep in mind also, sorry, I'm doing this a lot, but if you're new here, you'll either get used to it or you just go to a better detractor. Both are options. In any case, though, keep in mind, DSP is trying to refinance his own home now. He's actually waiting for it. My speculation is he's waiting for the bankruptcy to finish out, which I think he has like 2 more years left, I think. 2 or 3. Until the bankruptcy finally comes up clean and clear, and then he's going to try to refinance his home. Some people theorize whatever he's doing behind the scenes, in air quotes as he likes to call it, he's trying to fix things in the house so he can make the house somewhat presentable, so he can make it past inspection, so he can actually qualify for to refinance his home. So keep that in mind. The very mistakes that this guy saw people make, he's literally making himself.
Number one, a lot of these people, they already racked up $20,000 in credit card debt, and then they put that on a mortgage. Guess what? I'm going to go do it again because now all my credit cards are free and clear. So they racked themselves right back to the situation that they were in, only this time they had no equity in their home to solve the problem. Number two, the housing market crashed, and so even though we may have given them 100% of the value of their home on the loan, guess what? Now their home value is only this. They have a loan for twice the amount of money as what their house is worth. So all this was happening while I worked there. And
keep in mind, our financial wizard here sat there and was juggling 2 mortgages himself and whatnot. And then he was in a position to sell his home and at least break even. At least break even. And chose not to because he didn't want to answer his phone. Everything had to be done through email. So don't let this gouty Jedi mind tricks bullshit fool you and shit like he knew what the fuck he was doing or what he was talking about. The very condo that he's in right now at the time that, you know, the video that we're going over, he ain't sat there and got himself fucked over and underwater on that shit. And got lucky, if you want to call it that, that essentially the bank just took the property back and just sold it off and just kind of let him off the hook, so to speak. He's very, very fortunate. But let's not get it twisted, though. He made the exact same mistakes those people did. Well, close enough. And he'll probably do the same thing with the Snort fork. Like I said, we'll wait and see how the next 2 or 3 years go. But he's setting himself up to get fucked up, too. And he's got no savings, and he has no backup plan. He has nothing to borrow from unless mommy and daddy pass away in the next 2 years. And then he can use what's left of his inheritance to basically be a parachute. Not a golden parachute, because he ain't squandered most of that money over the last decade. But it might help him, it might not.
Quite honestly, I had a manager who didn't like me at all. We weren't compatible. He lived one kind of a lifestyle, I lived a different one. Not compatible, and for whatever reason, he just didn't like me.
Probably because you're not a likable person, and 2, what? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I doubt he judged you because, oh, where did Phil grow up at? Oh, he grew up in the hood? You know what I'm saying? Oh, you a bum? Oh, he's around those Negroes and shit? Nah, fuck that guy. Treat him like garbage. That's not the case. He didn't like you for the same reason people don't like you now. You're a piece of shit. It's very obvious. You walk around like people owe you something. Like you're entitled to things that you didn't work for and you really probably have no business having. And he probably picked up on that pretty fast. And you make excuses for why everything's not your fault. You did everything right. You did everything correct. After a while, people get tired of that shit. People make mistakes, sure. And people will tolerate that, especially if it shows or if it looks like you're making an effort to correct them or get better. But if you're out there making an excuse for every little thing that you do, after a while, people are going to be fuck all with fuck all. Like, let me give you an example. So I'm sure you guys have seen this, 2 different types of people. Person whose car broken down, who's out there, you know what I'm saying, in the sun or in the rain or in the snow or whatever the situation is, out there trying to, you know what I'm saying, try to see what their problem is. You'll have more people that will be willing to pull over to the side of the road to see what's up with them than the person who's sitting in their car just bitching, complaining, and whatever. Who's kind of just waiting for somebody to help them. There's a difference. Initiative is the point that I'm trying to make. DSP has none. He never has. He never will.
And he decided that he was going to give me the worst possible leads in the office. And I struggled to even close loans because he would give me people with such low credit. I would work to try to get them a loan for 2 months, and then they would get denied in the end because their credit's so low.
So clearly you messed up or you were missing something. On top of that, if the whole business, as you just said, is completely and utterly predicated on it, there are people, everybody's pretty much dealing with that. But yet you're sitting there pocket watching, let's reword that. You're sitting there watching everybody else's itinerary, and seeing how bad those people are that they're dealing with compared to yourself. No, I don't think you were doing that. I think you just assumed in your own head that this guy had an agenda and wanted to see you fail, that you automatically assumed that everything he gave you was the worst, which is mentally ill, Phil. That's mental fucking illness, Phil. That's what that is. And you were obviously bad at your job. You obviously didn't file the paperwork in the right sort of way, right, to make it conducive for those people to get a loan. So theoretically, you failed whoever the clients were before anything. And that, and more importantly, if you can't sustain the loan, there's no reason to give it to you. So there's that too. So it just sounds like you were bad at your job. That's literally what it comes down to. And history has proven this.
And I'd be like, what do you want me to do? You give me the worst possible leads in the fucking office. You do it every month to the point where I called in the district manager, the district supervisor.
Yes. Yes. We're going to eat good today. We're going to eat good today. So he thought he was being victimized, right? He thought he was being taken advantage of. He thought that the deck was stacked against him. And our ultimate underdog here decided to go above his manager and call the district manager and say, this guy is being mean to me. And he's not letting me get it easy like everybody else. Let's give you guys some early examples. The FGC, West Coast in particular. The West Coast guys were completely and utterly conspiring against him, according to Phil. And while everybody was going through and getting scrubs in their brackets, DSP didn't. He had to fight other, players of stature. People allegedly of his stature. People that he should be wanting to beat, because one, that shows his superiority, or at least shows his skill set. And two, it should make that victory even more important or valuable or meaningful as he escalates through the brackets. But no, DSP wanted scrubs like everybody else. He wanted his little warm-up matches so he could coast through the brackets. You know what I'm saying? So he could coast through pools, coast through the early levels of the brackets, so then he can face the prominent guys later. When they're what, Phil? Mentally exhausted, physically tired, the same bullshit excuses you come out here with? Semantics. But my next example, ladies and gentlemen, is Machinima. Yes. That famous story of Machinima. And how his income was damn near 30-40% lower than what it used to be. And Machinima wasn't giving him any answers, or not answers that he wanted. And he went to his representative. His representative says, hey, Phil, we're trying to work things out. We're not really sure what's going on. Give me some time. Here's some suggestions to how to better your content while we figure out what we're doing on our end. What does Phil do? That's not good enough for me. I need to go above your manager. Then I need to go above your manager. And eventually, almost, Phil made it to what? Damn near president of Machinima? Almost. He was maybe one more phone call away from getting to that person. And then he gets shut down by his representative saying, hey, you need to stop doing this. I've already talked to you. I've already tried to work with you. Well, that's not good enough for me. Well, you know what? If you're going to keep treating me like this, then I don't want to be here no more. Then what happens? DSP gives us some sad-ass story and some dirty-ass white shirt talking about, I got fired and I don't understand what happened. Well, I didn't get fired. It was a mutual situation. Well, it wasn't a mutual situation. I said I didn't want to work here anymore if they were going to treat me like that. You see the pattern, ladies and gentlemen? The way DSP does anything is the way he does everything. And you could take that to the bank.
To tell her, but guess what? I found out she trained the guy, so she protected him. So anyway, the bottom line, the reason I'm telling you this, I was quitting. I had to get out of there. It was either going to be fired or I had to quit, okay? So I quit my job, but the thing was, that whole year, I had traveled the country to play Marvel vs. Capcom.
He was going to get fired. And truth be told, he may have even gotten fired. That's more than likely what actually happened. He sat there and called whoever it was above his manager. They called the manager and be like, yo, why do you have this fuckwad calling me on some bullshit? Who was it? Phil Burnell? Who the fuck is that? He sounds and smells unwashed. I can smell him through the phone. Oh, I got you on that. Don't worry, I got you. And he probably fired your ass. I don't blame him. Well, he probably gave you a dressing down first, and then he fired your ass. So that's more than likely what happened. And I don't blame him, because DSP had already said that he was already bumping heads with this person anyway. So the dude was already a problem. So it sounds like Phil was either trying to get this guy reprimanded or fired before he got fired. Sounds like the Phil Paul Brunel way to me.
Capcom 2 and Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, and I knew that I was moving out of my apartment. I had an apartment, like I said, this 3-bedroom apartment. I knew eventually I'd be moving out, but it's like 6 months on the lease, and I didn't know where I was going to get the money from to pay the bills. I didn't know
Mommy and Daddy.
anything at that point. I did have a job interview lined up for Best Buy in a few weeks, but basically it was like a couple of weeks before EVO, and I said, I want to go so bad because I've been practicing this, everything I've been doing, waiting for, but it was a huge risk because I didn't have the money to go.
Wow, literally time sink fallacy. Or the time sink sunken cost fallacy, I should say. I'm sorry. So let's go ahead and paint the scenario because I love doing that. A regular Bob Ross around this bitch. So DSP screenshot, I'm sorry. DSP decides to get himself fired or quit, whatever side you want to go with. He decides to quit or get fired from his job, has another job at Best Buy lined up, which is certainly going to be less money. If you guys know the Best Buy story, you guys know how that all worked out. That was over some FGC shit too. Semantics. We'll tackle that later. So this idiot is out of the job. His roommates are probably like, okay, Phil, you're going to be able to pull this rent. He wants to go to this tournament. He wants to go so bad because he don't have any friends or anybody that he's cool with or anybody to associate with. He ain't sat there and is dealing with the sunken cost fallacy because all he does is play Street Fighter when he's not working because he don't have shit else to him. And this tournament's coming up, and he's thinking, I've already spent all this time in this bullshit. If I can win this tournament, it will validate me in life and shit, and at least people in the FGC will respect me, even though people in my real life think I'm just a piece of garbage and will never respect me on anything. Is that what you thought, Phil? Is this how we were morally judging our scenario and our situation? Get the admiration and respect from a bunch of people who you were never going to get that from anyway. Or fucking paying bills and dealing with real life shit, IRL shit, being a mature adult with a business degree. The best you could do after getting fired or quitting fucking Wells Fargo was to go to Best Buy? All right, bruh. All right, bruh. All right, bruh.
So I did one of the dumbest things I've ever done in my life, and please, I beg of you, unless you're on your last legs financially, do not ever do what I'm going to tell you I did to pay for my EVO trip. I took cash advances on all of my credit cards. So we're talking thousands of dollars in cash advances. I ended up paying off the interest alone for that for about 5 years.
Now, for some of you who are wondering how DSP got himself into a position where he had 13 or 14 credit cards, why he needed all those business loans and shit, why he's so bad with money, that's why. Because DSP only likes to pay the bare minimum. He never wants to pay over the minimum so he can hit the principal. He's okay with just coasting along with his $35, $40 a month, and that's it. That's the reason why that dumbass got bankrupt. Or why he went bankrupt. That's why that dumbass didn't pick up that phone when that realtor was like, hey, I can sell your condo. I just need 5 minutes. I need 10 minutes, 10 minutes of your time on this phone call and whatnot, just to iron out some details. There's a reason why he's sitting there straight up begging and pleading and shit for his fucking, those dents in his audience to keep paying him money instead of going and getting that 50 grand with fucking Lowell Cal Live. But then he didn't mind throwing away 8 months over there with Kino Casino for the same 50 grand. Oh shit, that's crazy as fuck. I just thought about that. If you, oh shit, that's kind of funny. I just thought about that. If you really think about the Kino Casino arc, the Kino Casino arc is the Lowell Cal Live arc. It's pretty much the same damn thing. Except for, allegedly, DSP would have gotten the 50 grand up front and then got 25% of the show and then made whatever he was going to make, monthly. He did the same thing with Kino Casino for far less, and they got far more out of it. That's crazy. That's fucking crazy. Now that I think about that shit, I'll turn that into another video later, because now I really want to sit there and think that out. But that's literally crazy. But then again, yet again, it shows DSP's bad decision making in real time. Take it all in, ladies and gentlemen. Embrace the aroma.
I'm not kidding. The reason that I had such credit card debt, and I told you just recently that I paid off all my credit card debt a year or two ago, is because that dumb decision to take out like $3,000 with cash advances on my credit cards fucked me up financially for years. So don't fucking do it unless you're destitute. Okay? Now.
Wow.
By the way.
Trolls.
I see a bunch of trolls again, so I just banned them.
Oh, look at that. Look at that 2014 lean-in manual bands. Oh, that's so crazy. That's vintage, ladies and gentlemen. Vintage. Right out the cellar.
Okay. So, on a whim, no job, unemployed, recently, left my job, on bad terms, by the way, because I hated the fucking manager, and I had it out with him and told him he was a fucking asshole, and that he doesn't know how to run a branch, and the only reason he had his job is because basically his district manager is a fucking cocksucker.
So just like, and this is a female, by the way, that branch manager or whatever, whoever he talked to above them, that was a female. So that's how we look at women, apparently, Phil. But anyway, it's funny how didn't he say the exact same shit about the higher ups at Machinima? How they all had silver spoons in their mouths and they didn't actually they had book smarts but not street smarts, and that's why they didn't know how to run a business. Like I said, the way he does anything is the way he does everything.
And protected his ass, because I would have had him fucking fired for the shit. I actually found out.
Oh, so he was going out of his way to try to get dude fired. Oh, imagine that. Imagine that. Wow. Blip TV too. He kind of tried to do some similar bullshit at Blip also before when they let his ass go. Wow, bro. Amazing track record.
He was illegally granting loans to certain people, which I'm not even going to get into. I will not get into it here. Okay.
Look at this bitter ass bitch. Then he says after the fact, way after the fact, apparently, he was granting loans to people who shouldn't have gotten them, or certain people. Who told you that, Phil, and how did you even verify that? Or is that yet again another thing that you ain't made up to make yourself feel better? So, ladies and gentlemen, now that could have been true, but what if it's not? Because DSP is a pathological liar. So literally, we're constructing shit in our own heads. In our own head, I should say. To try to vilify people. That's wild. Because if you listen to this narrative here, he's basically saying, oh, the reason why people, or at least him, he was able to hit his quota is because he was giving loans to people that damn sure shouldn't have gotten it. So he went ahead and skirted the line, or he broke the rules so he could make sure he could get over, but DSP couldn't do it. DSP wasn't allowed to do it. He didn't help DSP do it. Let me give you an even more recent example. DSP talked about the angry video game nerd recently. I think I did a video on it. Pretty sure. And he said that oh, angry video game nerd has been re-editing his videos, and that's why he's still prominent in the search engine, this, that, and the third. And he said, oh, well, but they're not going to tell anybody their secret because they don't want anybody else to get views or have relevancy or prominence. They just keep all that stuff to themselves. Well, DSP, who the hell have you ever helped in your time on YouTube or in the FGC or anywhere, for that matter? You can't say, oh, well, I helped John out. No, you didn't. John was your bag carrier and your cameraman. He was literally doing something to earn his way out there. So that don't count. Same thing with Howard. And actually, you never even, well, according to Phil, you didn't even like Howard. Howard was there for John. You wanted John, so you were willing to tolerate Howard to keep John in pocket. Like, you see what I'm saying? Utilitarianism. Like, you have to have a purpose. You have to be useful. If not, you're just in the way.
So, on a whim, I go out to EVO. Now, the thing is, I didn't go with anyone. I went by myself on my own ticket.
Which that goes a long way to back up my story when I said that he didn't meet John until after EVO, which he's talked about. He didn't meet John until after EVO. Because if that was the case, what was the problem here? Not to say that John probably had shit to do, he probably couldn't go, so on and so forth. That's possible. Very possible. But reality is John wasn't in his life yet. Apparently nobody was. This dude was out here by himself. He didn't get any relevancy or anything until after he got on YouTube. That's where he had poached those underage girls. Sorry. No, I'm not sorry. Fuck that. That's where he poached fucking Panda Lee and her young self. And then he sat there and poached Chaos Realm. Fucking, what's her name? I'm just crazy that I just do not give a fuck about what her name is right now. Catherine. and whatnot. Cat, basically. And she wasn't underage, but she was damn sure broken at that particular point when he got her and whatnot. Being locked in a closet for extended periods of time will do that to you. Sorry, but I'm not sorry. But that's a thing. If you guys know, you know. So there's issues like that. So everything that he's ever had of relevancy has been provided to him by the internet. He never had any of that shit in IRL. If it wasn't for YouTube, he would have never met Leanna. If it wasn't for YouTube, he would have never met fucking Kat. If it wasn't for the FGC, he'd never met John and Howard. But yet you're supposedly in this arcade setting where a bunch of people who were already on the tournament scene, Scott, for example, and the people that ran with him, they didn't go to EVO that year, or they just didn't go with you. Makes you think.
I remember the flight sucked. It was a red.
And actually, now that I think about it, it's 2005, and T's already passed away. So Scott actually probably didn't even have it in him to really go traveling anymore. But there was a bunch of other guys that was on that tournament scene too, from Connecticut, and none of them wanted to go with you, Phil? Yikes.
A flight. This is the dumbest flight I've ever heard of. Where do you hear this? So, my flight left from Connecticut, flew from Connecticut to New York, and then from New York to the West Coast. So, the flight from Connecticut to New York was the worst flight I've ever been on. It was a tiny fucking plane. Only me and one other woman were on it. I don't understand how that worked. It was the most crazy ass turbulence I've ever been in my life. It literally felt like you were on a roller coaster and a giant head roller coaster in his hands was going like this. That's what the flight fucking felt like. So that was awful. When I finally got out there, I ended up, taking a taxi or whatever to the venue. Now, at the time, EVO was being held in Vegas. It still is held in Vegas. But at that time, they were trying to every year have a different place on the strip. I don't particularly remember what casino they were at that year, but they were at a casino. I do remember that much.
Damn, he didn't even have anybody that could pick him up from the airport. That's wild. Damn, you were really out. You were really lonely, weren't you, Phil? You were just out there on your own. Out there in the snowstorm with no clothes on. God damn, son.
And I didn't have any roommates or anything like that.
That's a lie, but he'll correct himself.
I did have enough money, luckily, let me think about that now. Did I have my own room? I can't even remember. I don't think I had my own room. I think because
See, and that's the thing. That's one of DSP's many tells. When he's lying or he's about to walk into a lie, he starts to slow his speech down real slow and whatnot. Now you hear a lot more of that forced goat laughing. His eyes dart all over the place, this, that, and the third. But old Phil, he had a bunch of tells too. One of his tells, one of the more pronounced ones, I should say, is he slows his speech down real slow. And then he'll catch himself, and then he'll actually correct it. But because DSP is a pathological liar, for all we know, it's all a lie. So it is what it is on that.
I had so little money, I ended up rooming with a bunch of people from Maryland who I knew because they're cool. They're real cool people. They'd come up to the northern area of the East Coast to play in Street Fighter tournaments before. I think I talked to them online and arranged to stick my leg in and get a spot in their room.
Now, that shows you what kind of fucking egregious liar DSP is. That's gross. That's a gross set of lies. That's gross that he can lie like that. That's scary. Because we went from lone wolf out here and shit, you know what I'm saying, in an airplane with some lady by herself to get to New York, then the flight from New York to Vegas, had to take a taxi, you know what I'm saying, got dropped off, you know what I'm saying, I had, thank God I had enough money for a hotel room, and then, I don't think I had enough money for a hotel room now. Now I think I had the room with some people, maybe there's some people from Maryland, maybe? Oh, yeah, it was Maryland. I was chilling with them guys and shit. I was real cool with them. And so they let me get a room in because I had actually talked to them before I negotiated getting a spot in that room before I even went out there. That's funny how all that shit got left out. You see how egregious the lies are? That's wild that someone can lie like that. And it's really crazy how, he did that on purpose. He wanted to really make it sound like he was the lone wolf out there for Connecticut. The only person who was literally hoisting the flag, and he was a one-man army. But DSP's never been a one-man army. He always depends on other people. He always has. He always will. DSP's not independent, let alone independent of anybody else. He's a leech. He's a parasite. He's cancer. He is what he is. But let's bring that whole story back, though. Like, let's see if you catch it the way I catch it.
like, so that was awful. When I finally got out there, I ended up, taking a taxi or whatever to the venue. Now, at the time, EVO was being held in Vegas. It still is held in Vegas, but at that time, they were trying to every year have a different place on the strip. I don't particularly remember what casino they were at that year, but they were at a casino. I do remember that much. And I didn't have any roommates or anything like that. I did have enough money, luckily, let me think about that now. Did I have my own room? I can't even remember. I don't think I had my own room. I think because I had so little money, I ended up rooming with a bunch of people from Maryland who I knew because they're cool. They're real cool people. They'd come up to the northern area of the East Coast to play in Street Fighter tournaments before. I think I talked to them online and arranged to stick my leg in and get a spot in their room. Isaac Graham was actually one of the people who I hung out with during that EVO.
See, this is what Adam in Side Scrollers, this is what Adam pointed out. He's like, oh, yeah, you're not sure about this, you're not sure about that, it could have been this, it could have been that. How do you speak with such certainty if you don't know? And DSP had no retort to that. He had no answer. Because in DSP's head, he's the hero and the victim of his own story. And as the hero, everything has to go your way. Everything has to be insurmountable. Everything has to be the most the most terrible circumstances possible. And somewhere down the line, there's plenty of studies out there about liars, but they say that most people genuinely don't want to lie. It's not something like you have to spend so much time mentally and so much mental, you have to exhaust yourself mentally to come up with a lie and to keep building on that lie than telling the truth. And human nature dictates that it's just far easier to tell the truth. And the truth usually seeps out, especially amongst locals. They'll lie to you all day. And then eventually they're going to get comfortable and they're not thinking, and then the truth pops out. Same thing here. So how do you take someone like this seriously when he can lie as blatantly as he just did? This is just one example. 2014. For those of you who are watching me, you've probably seen, I've pointed this out hundreds of times, I'm sure. If not thousands, but certainly hundreds of times. I've pointed this out to you. Far better detractors have pointed out even further. So how do you take someone like this seriously? How do you give them even an ounce of credence when they can lie that blatantly? We went from one man, barely had enough money for a hotel room, didn't have hotel rooms. Those are for bums, apparently. I don't need roomies and shit like that. Right, LTG? Broken ass, bum ass bitch. Remember that, LTG? That's what DSP said. But right here, he was so quick to say he didn't have no roommates, and then all of a sudden he had to get into his broke boy status. It's real weird, man. You can throw them shots at LTG talking about broke boy this, section 9 this. Just call that boy, just call him the N-word and get it done with. Just go ahead and call him the N-word and get it done, Phil. Just get it done. You clearly want to, and you fighting it hard. Just go ahead and get it out there. It's not going to get it's not going to get the results that you want. But you're too stupid to think about that. You're too stupid to think about that. Just call him the N-word and get it over with, Phil. You're chomping at the bit. You're either going to call him the N-word or you're going to suck him off. Which one is it? Which one is it? Hell, you could probably do both, I guess. I don't know. You like to watch a lot of BBC porn, so I'm sure you've seen that somewhere. So go ahead and make that happen, Phil. Do something. Jesus. Yikes.
And, so they were real cool. I kind of hung out with those group of players during that EVO, and I remember being pretty much alone. No one else from my area, the East Coast, no one from Connecticut had gone to EVO, and that could be a daunting.
Or none of those people wanted to go with him, because you remember that long pause he just had after he had to admit that he did have to room up with people. It was the Maryland crew, and then he had that real long pause where he looked off screen, where he's like, "Fuck, I got caught in my own lie." He's coming back. Now we have to get back around. Not to say that he's remorseful, because I don't think that's in DSP's vocabulary. But then we have to come back around and say, I was pretty much the only person out in Connecticut, or from Connecticut. I was the one that was hoisting the flag. I was the one-man army and shit, holding Connecticut down, just like how I told you. Just like how I told you. And see, if he could have figured out how to get that lie in there and make it stick, that's how he would have finished it. I'm the only person out here from Connecticut. No one had the balls to go out here. I came out here alone, myself. Me, myself, and I. No backup. You know what I'm saying? No emotional support. No physical support. Just me. out here by myself, getting shit done by myself. That's how the story was supposed to be. Because that's what every great hero story is, right, ladies and gentlemen? One-man army, by yourself, Rambo. That's a that's a double negative. But anyway, you know what I'm saying? Out here like Rambo shit, one-man army. He tried to sell you that lie. And he caught himself. Just throwing it out there. Just thought I'd point it out.
Thing when you're going up in a tournament, it's a nationals tournament, and yeah, it's an open thing and anyone can enter, but back then, keep in mind, Street Fighter 4 wasn't out. It was a much smaller event, and it was a lot more daunting because almost everyone there is a killer player. They've been playing forever. There's no opportunity to play multiple levels of people who aren't very good before you get to someone who's good.
Oh boy, you guys know what this means? Of course you know what this means. Y'all been around long enough and shit. Next round of SnortBucks is on me. You guys know what this is. Where the scrubs at? Where's the scrubs at? That's what DSP telling you. He's talking about is daunting. Oh, everybody out here are killers. You're not a killer, so what you doing out there? Real recognizes real, Phil. What the hell are you doing out there? You ain't no killer. You out here, he literally said, I'm looking for the trolls. Or not trolls, I'm looking for the scrubs. I'm looking for the newbies. You know what I'm saying? Where they at? You know what I'm saying? Where's the appetizers at? Where's the $5 buffet at? Where that at? Let me get there first, and then I'll try to go ahead and act like I'm cool and I can eat steaks and lobster with y'all at the bigger buffets later. Where's the $5 place at? I need to get my fill on bread and water. Right, Phil? Boy, I love it when a plan comes together. I love it when a plan comes together in my evil laugh.
Going up in a tournament, it's a nationals tournament, and yeah, it's an open thing and anyone can enter, but back then, keep in mind, Street Fighter 4 wasn't out. It was a much smaller event, and it was a lot more daunting because almost everyone there is a killer player. They've been playing forever. There's no opportunity to play multiple levels of people who aren't very good before you get to someone who's good because the tournaments were much smaller.
All right, a couple things. One, why does he do that with his arm? I don't understand that. It doesn't make no sense to me. That's far more motion than it needs to be. I don't know if his little piggy elbow can't support the weight, so he needs his whole shoulder. I don't get it, but it annoys me. It annoys the hell out of me. Two, yet again, that all-you-can-eat scrub buffet, this, that, and the third, right? And it's times like this, right, that makes me go back to one of my favorite players online, right, who's within this community, right? And there's a bunch. Obviously, there's Evil AJ. There's Piece of Peace. There's Jose. There's a bunch of guys who mingle around and shit. There's Raw Phil. Big ups to all of them. But it brings back to one of my favorite players, right? Goji Tanks, a.k.a. Goji. And whatnot. I don't know Goji like that, but I like calling him Goji. And whatnot. And how Goji consistently cleaned his ass up with Sean. Even though I feel Goji's Alex in Third Strike is far better. His Sean is fucking great and has gotten mileage and shit. Go and look at the Little World Order videos and shit about Goji Tanks, the legend of Goji Tanks, if you will. It's all there. It's all there. Anywho, if you guys remember to their first match, DSP was like, "Oh, Sean player, they're garbage. This, that, and the third. Whatever got clean. DSP got clean the fuck up. DSP got clean the fuck up." And I love that moment. The reason why I love that moment is that moment right there, up to that point, reinforced to me that DSP was, well, it was one of the moments, I should say, that always reinforced to me that DSP was never shit about shit. And as years have gone on and all these different fighting games that he keeps boasting about, oh, I have some experience in this, I know the history of this, I was on the tournament scene for this, and yet he gets cleaned up by all these people that he calls Nolos in this, that, and the third, and they're just far more superior players than him. It reiterates that he wasn't shit in the FGC. He wasn't. He was mediocre. He was mediocre. That is what that is. He sat there and he's a vulture. He lingered around dying games, hoping to get his name up in this, that, and the third. But when it was time to go ahead and get into the big boys like Sandbox and shit, you know, he couldn't do anything. He couldn't do anything. He sat there and was pissing in the sand. Justin is over there on his jungle gym and shit. Fucking other dudes are over here on his fucking swing set. There's another guy over here on the slide and whatnot. And DSP is just stuck in the sand by himself, walloping in his own piss and shit. He was never nothing. Ever. And for those few of you guys and whatnot who keep saying, oh, DSP was above average player, this, that, and third, whatever, that's cool. I roger that. I'm not attacking you. I'm attacking your point. Where's your evidence? Where's your proof? Because people 10 years later, 15 years later, 20 years later, who feel sympathetic for him and say, yeah, he was an alright player, this, that, and third, that doesn't really mean anything. That's not me taking anything away from what they're saying. But let's let reality speak for itself. If he's not able to get over on people who've become detractors who beat his ass, Evil AJ, Goji Tanks, Jose C, Raw Phil, Piece of Peace, we can just keep running down the gauntlet if you need me to. If he can't get past none of them guys, how the fuck am I supposed to believe that he was able to swing with the heavyweights and whatnot? Justin, Snake Eyes, Chris G, VDO, you know what I'm saying? Smooth Cat, I wouldn't even put him up that particularly high, but he's certainly a very good player. For sure. Nephew, well, I would say he's up there with Nephew. Close. I wouldn't put him all the way up there like that, but he's pretty damn close. Nephew, guys like that. Or he damn sure is not good enough to beat Arturo. I know that for damn sure. So how is that a thing? He's not getting past the casual players online who are part of or adjacent to the DSP Detractor community. Just regular guys online. He's getting beasted by them. He gets completely cleaned the fuck up by the pros that are online. If he actually showed up in person on lands, you guys really think he's going to have any real tournament results that mean anything? Does DSP and all the gameplay that you guys have seen him play? I know someone like Secret Limited, but he don't really watch me though. But people like Secret Limited, even and the homie fucking Sunspot Gallery. I know for sure he'll have my back on this. Sunspot Gallery for sure would back me up that DSP is not tournament level, nor was he. If he tried to jump into Street Fighter 6 right now, he wouldn't make top 32. Damn sure ain't making top 16. We can say fuck all about top 8. I don't even know if he would even make it in the top 100. And supposedly, Street Fighter 6 is completely kid-friendly, this, that, and the third, easiest executions, brain-dead combos, this, that, and the third, then why does he still get cleaned up? Why is he too scared to play it? Why is it that he can't get past master rank? Once he gets to about 1500, he done. When he plays these old games, there's more Rage compilations out right now, or could be out, on DSP playing CVS 2 than anything. He wasn't shit in Marvel 2, which is the reason why he ain't playing it. So tell me something. That's all. I'm not, like I said, I'm not attacking you, I'm attacking your points. Tell me something then. Don't worry, I'll wait. And big ups to everybody that I mentioned. Big ups to everybody I mentioned.
So, oh, looks like we got more lag on the stream, everyone. Isn't that great? Anyway, so I go out there by myself pretty much, kind of nervous because I've never been out there to the West Coast by myself before.
Oh, and he nervous. And let's be honest. It's not like now where if you're like an East Coast rapper, you got to be cautious going over to the West because them boys are quick to go ahead and rob you, shoot you, and everything else and whatnot. So there's a lot of East Coast guys who go over there and don't come back, and so on and so forth. Then again, and back in the 90s, at least the way I read it, back in the 90s when West Coast guys tried to go over to when East Coast guys used to go over to the West Coast. I'm talking about rappers here, just to be clear here. Some of these East Coast guys, when East Coast guys went over to the West would play their records and whatnot, show love in the clubs and all that bullshit, so on and so forth. But when some of the West Coast guys, I'm going to say some because obviously it's not all of them, but when some of the West Coast guys went over to the East and shit, they got clowned, called country bumpkins, said their music is garbage, this, that, and the third. Which is weird because a lot of East Coast guys took West Coast flows. They took down south flows too, now that I think about it, and they call that shit fucking backwards music too. Until that shit started charting. And still motherfuckers were winning Grammys and shit for it when the Source Awards were still relevant, and they were catching awards over there, and then it became something. Semantics. Okay, there's a lot of hypocrisy in music all around with that. Point being, though, is DSP talking about he nervous, this, that, and the third, about going over there or going out there to the West by himself and this, that, and the third. It might have something to do, I should say. It might have something to do with all the trash talk he was talking about West Coast players on SRK, on event hubs, on Capcom United. Maybe that was the issue. Maybe that was the problem. I don't know. It's just something I thought about.
But I said, I'm just going to do it. To hell with it. Shoot the J. This may be, you know, my final opportunity because I don't even have a job. I don't know if I'm going to find another job. Let me just do this, get it out of the way, and I'll get it out of my system, and maybe I'll never go to EVO again. Who knows? If I have no money, there's no way I can go to EVO ever again. And
yet again, who talks in absolutes like that? Damn, Phil, what, you thought you were gonna just die in 2005? You weren't ever gonna get a job? Your whole FGC shit was gone and over? I mean, you don't have any friends in the FGC, obviously. So I guess, you know, there's that. No one in Connecticut was supporting you. And I love the screenshot. I love this screenshot, by the way, because it really shows, it really visualizes how desperate he was in 2005. Being manifested in 2014, only to be cut the fuck up in 2025. It's amazing. Anyway, it's funny how he really had nothing to lose because he had no stakes in this. He didn't have a friend that he could reach out to. Any associates were probably hesitant to have him even be around them and shit. He had no support structure at all. And yet again, he didn't meet John until after the 2005 tournament. EVO. 2005, I should say. John didn't step into his life then. Until then, I should say. He was literally out here by himself. But I thought DSP said all these people liked him and all these people respected him in the second and third. Right? I thought he was the young Turkish shit that everybody was looking at being like, the fuck? Who's this young guy beating up on the OGs and all this bullshit? That's not what he's saying right here. He's saying that he didn't have a friend in sight. He had no support system and or structure. Make it make sense.
Here's the thing about EVO 2005 that was so controversial. Anyone who played Super Turbo at the time will tell you this. This was a time period when EVO was adjusting to the times. At the time, arcades were going out of business. The pastime of going to your local arcade on a stand-up cabinet and playing with someone in person, those days were going away. What had happened is that recently, games such as Third Strike and Super Turbo had been released on the Xbox, and people were playing them on the Xbox online. And so they were playing that way. Now, it was incredibly laggy, and it was very hard to learn anything, but that was the best you got back there then, okay? And what EVO decided to do is they wanted to, for the first...
Wait, so you missed the PS2 era, but you were around, but you were participating playing on Xbox? Huh? Huh. Okay.
First time they wanted to convert their tournament from an all arcade cabinet tournament to all consoles. The problem with doing that was that there weren't widely accepted console versions of these arcade games that people felt were arcade perfect. So for example, with the exception of Marvel vs. Capcom.
Now, I can't remember exactly when the Dreamcast came out, but Dreamcast has arcade perfect Super Turbo. So, was the Dreamcast not a thing in 2005? Maybe? Hold on a second. Okay. So, then the Sega Dreamcast came out November 27th of 2019. Okay. Street Fighter 2 Turbo came out in 2000. Yeah, Street Fighter 2 Turbo for the Dreamcast, I should say, came out in 2000. We're in 2005. So why, now that opens Pandora's box. Why the hell were you guys playing on a PS1 version of Super Turbo when I don't remember Sony actually investing in EVO at that time, when you guys could have just used the Dreamcast? Huh. Well, that might be interesting to look into later. That might be a nice side mission. I think. I hope. That might be a nice side mission. Yeah, that might be a nice side mission. Just because we're all stickler for facts here, right? So, yeah, Street Fighter 2 Turbo, or Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, I'm sorry, came out for the Dreamcast December 22nd of 2000. The game itself, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, came out February 23rd of 1994. He's playing in 2005. So the game was over a decade old when he was sitting there trying to get prominence off that game. That is wild. I never actually sat there and really thought about the time frame of that. That's crazy. Matter of fact, let me go on one more side trip. Give me just a second. Another side mission. Interestingly enough. So I was looking for when did the Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo release for Neo Geo, which is just a meme, by the way. But I'm pretty sure there is a port out there for it, but that's semantics. If we're talking about official releases, though, there isn't one. Now, Street Fighter, there are versions of Street Fighter 2 on the Neo Geo, but not Super Turbo. Interestingly enough. Now, of course, obviously there are later ports that you can play on a Neo Geo, but nothing official though. But there are Street Fighter titles though that are on the Neo Geo. Interestingly enough. Okay, that was a nice little side mission. But I'm pretty sure Tevin already went over that though. So big ups. But that's kind of wild. That's kind of wild. Okay, back to the action.
Capcom 2, every game had a difference from the arcade version. Capcom vs. SNK 2 ran much faster on consoles than it did on the arcade boards, so you had to actually be faster and have better hand-eye coordination to be better on it on consoles. Third Strike, or Street Fighter...
Oh, and that's another thing too. I'm glad you brought that up. So when we talk about different game speeds, right, one of DSP's go-tos is, oh, the game speed didn't run right for certain ports, this, that, and the third. Well, through over time from playing, you get used to it. And he knows that. But he constantly used that as an excuse to back up on when other pros didn't do that. Yeah, they mention it. Oh, yeah, it plays at a different speed than in the arcade. You adapt. But every time DSP loses, oh, the game's too fast. The game's running too fast. But when he wins, oh, that guy's garbage. He sucks. Make of it what you will.
3 Third Strike had several differences from the arcade version that a lot of people eventually forgot about because everyone just got used to the console versions and played that. But Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo by far had a bad run when it came to console versions. In this particular case, they decided that for EVO 2K5, 2005, they were going to use the PlayStation 1 version from the Street Fighter collection of Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. And what a gaffe that was, because people were like, oh, we can't find that game. The game's like 3 years old. It's hard to get your hands on now. A lot of people, you know, didn't like that version of the game. In fact, I'll tell you that right now, that version of the game is far from arcade perfect. It's got tons of differences. Lots of timing issues, hitboxes that were changed, damage level output that was changed. There's a lot about that game that was changed on the console version, the PS1 version in particular. And so what ended up happening was...
Well, yeah, but that could be said for most variations of fucking of fighting games who have different versions or whatever. The Alpha series is a shining example of that. Hell, look at no further than Street Fighter 4. All those different iterations of it, each one of them have something slightly different. It wasn't just characters. There was slight tune-ups, there was buffs, there were nerfs, there was different hitbox changes, this, that, and the third, but he never bitches about that. Semantics.
There was controversy because all the old school Super Turbo players who traditionally attended EVO, okay, and played on Arcade Cabinet, said, well, how are we going to do this? We've always played on Arcade Cabinet. That's the real definitive version, and you're telling us to play an inferior version that is not the same as the arcade. And so some old school players put up a big stink. One of them, I'll tell you right now, was Alex Valle. I don't want to play on console. This is bullshit. Of course, later on, everything became console. It didn't matter anymore what these guys said. They ended up playing on console regardless because it was what they did at EVO. But at the time, it was this big controversial thing. We don't like this, blah, blah, blah. Now, let me tell you guys something. I, in particular, got into Super Turbo after the days when it was a new game. I started playing it around the year 2000 in arcades. It was like, I would play Marvel vs. Capcom 2 as my primary game, but whenever I wasn't playing that, I would head over to Super Turbo and play that for hours. And it was known as the thinking man's game because at...
Oh, boy. And let's go, here we go into the mental fucking monkey spank off that we go into. DSP's trying to flex his intellectual value and shit by playing Super Turbo and trying to hype it up like that. And whatnot. And and here's the thing about the thinking man's aspect of it, because there have been other pro players over the years who have clarified it's a much slower game. It is a much slower game, so it gives you far more time, and it's probably far more lenient in your decision making because of how slow paced the game is. You know what I'm saying? Now, don't be wrong. You can, if you got somebody who knows what they're doing and they're heavy on their offense, shit can speed up fast, but not CVS 2 fast. Not Third Strike fast. Well, Third Strike is arguable. You could make a pretty good case for Third Strike. Definitely not obviously Marvel's Capcom Too Fast. So that's really what it comes down to. It just gives DSP a lot of time to think. And if you look at someone like Evil AJ, for example, I'm not saying this is completely based on all of Evil AJ's success because it's not true. But when Evil AJ is rushing DSP down, and trust me, there are compilations out there you can find, even on Evil AJ's channel, DSP is at his worst because he doesn't have the chance to think. He don't have the space to move. You know what I'm saying? So when Evil AJ is literally smothering him, DSP is at his worst. When DSP has a chance to sit there and think, and he can kind of pace himself and this, that, and the third, it's probably he has a better chance to win. But if he's being rushed the fuck down, he's done. He's done because his brain don't work. Because his brain doesn't work that way, and his reactions and reflexes aren't as good. And that's kind of always been a problem with DSP, to be honest.
I don't want to play on console. This is bullshit. Of course, later on, everything became console. It didn't matter anymore what these guys said. They ended up playing on console regardless because it was what they did at EVO. But at the time, it was this big controversial thing. We don't like this, blah, blah, blah. Now, let me tell you guys something. I, in particular, got into Super Turbo after the days when it was a new game. I started playing it around the year 2000 in arcades. It was like, I would play Marvel vs. Capcom 2 as my primary game, but whenever I wasn't playing that, I would head over to Super Turbo and play that for hours. And it was known as the thinking man's game because at its core, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo is not a complex game. There's only like there's only 16 characters in it. Well, I guess you could say there's more than that if you count Akuma. So, all right, there's a limited amount of character selection. A lot of the characters have similarities, right? Very basic system. There's no gimmicks in that.
So it's slow paced. I got you, Phil. I think we get it. It's a slow paced game. Gotcha. He's trying real hard not to say it. It's a slow paced game. That's fine, Phil.
In that game, the new gimmick was basically super moves because that was the game that introduced them.
You mean a comeback factor? And I bring that up, not to be spiteful, because I'm all about my supers, my ultras, and so on and so forth. But that's kind of what it is. Like, if you're in a bad spot, this is an oh shit, get you out of, it could, if you use it properly. It can get you out of a sticky situation, or if it can turn the tides. I don't think that's a gimmick. I think it's something that Street Fighter needed. I think that was a natural progression that fighting games needed in particular, but whatever.
And you could probably, in a couple days of playing it, learn a few characters and be able to play it at a decent competitive level, okay? The trick here is in the nuances. They called it the old man's fighter because the people who'd played that game for years and knew these little tricks, these little timing things that they could use to beat even the peer person who's been playing it for a year, and they think that they're really good, that guy would all of a sudden pull something out from his old knowledge that you didn't know, and boom, you lose.
Sounds like projection. Sounds like Phil's been the victim of that, which it shouldn't surprise anybody, honestly.
And that's kind of the game that it was known as. And I was actually a newcomer to the game, considered a newcomer to the game when I was playing it around this time period. People would say, oh, he may be good, but you know what? He wasn't from back in the day, so he's not an OG. That's what they call them, OG, because they think they're gangsters or something. It stands for original gamer, but they call them OGs like, oh, we're original gangsters. Yeah, okay. Because you play Street Fighter in a fucking arcade, you're a gangster.
Keep in mind, this is from the same mongoloid, though, that was threatening people online on the SRK boards and shit like that over a fighting game. Keep that in mind.
Whatever you say, dude. But yeah, I was considered the new kid on the block. And so for me to get respect was like impossible. You're playing Super Turbo, you want respect. You're a kid, you're young. You know, people who are playing Super Turbo are all in their 30s. You're only in your 20s. Who do you think you are to be playing this game? Yada, yada, yada.
Also, that's not what they said about him. That was kind of said about Justin, but then again, Justin's younger than fucking DSP. So keep that in mind. So some of the nuances of this story, he's basically plucking from Justin's story. Because Justin was super young when he popped up and started making a name for himself. Semantics.
So, I go out there and I'm going to very shortly reveal something that's going to piss off a lot of people, but I'm not going to reveal it yet. We're going to get to it. So I go out there, and I immediately notice there's an arcade cabinet for Super Turbo, but I'm like, but that's not arcade Super Turbo. What is it? Well, there's a guy, his name is Cigar Bob. I have no idea if he's still around, but at the time, he was an OG, that's what they called him, an OG, whatever, who back in the day was known for playing Super Turbo, but he actually owned.
And here's the thing, though, too. Let me point that out because I like, you know me, I like to nitpick. The concept of OG is just an elder statesman. DSP realizes that, and it's funny because DSP now considers himself an OG or an elder statesman, and he's mad because he doesn't get any respect. Well, he doesn't get any respect at all, but he doesn't get any respect for his, you know, his time. You know what I'm saying, being around and this, that, and third. But this same ass clown didn't respect the people who came before him. Look at how he talking. And then he mad because people don't know him, don't remember him, don't care to know him, or just disregard him outright. Oh, I've been around the FGC for a long time. I have a lot of knowledge, and no one wants to listen to me. You didn't want to listen to the people who came before you. You treated them like they were shit, and like it was just a gimmick, and you were mocking them. So what goes around comes around, at least in that way, if you think about it.
Arcade cabinets, he built his own cabinets, and he actually built this custom setup where you could have different joystick types and things installed in this cabinet, and it would hook up to a TV that two people could play on. So you could play PlayStation 1 Super Turbo with your style of controller or joystick, almost like you're at an arcade. Okay? And that's what everyone was playing on during this entire tournament. Of course, they had other setups, and they were by the way, back then, unheard of to play on a pad. If you were trying to play Street Fighter on a pad, you were shunned. Wow, what a dick. Look at the guy, he's not doing it right. He needs a joystick. Because that's what it was. Everyone grew up in arcades, so that was the way to play, with a joystick and buttons. You were actually made fun of if you played on a pad back then. And so basically...
Look at how times change. Like, I think the current world champion for fucking, for Street Fighter 6 plays on a pad. I'm pretty sure RD plays on a... Pretty sure he plays on a fucking pad. Pretty confident.
What everyone ended up doing for 2 days before the actual EVO event happened is practice the fuck out of the PlayStation 1 version of Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo and tried to learn the differences in the game. Now, it's funny to me because I was there, Cigar Bob was there, there were a bunch of people there who I was very friendly with and I was playing, but it was none of the OGs, right? It wasn't the guys who were...
I was very friendly with... See, here's the thing about that. Okay, for those of you who are... For any of you guys who are familiar with the commentator community, or a segment of it, I should say, there's a little civil war going on right now between Willie Mack and Augie, which I'm actually kind of not surprised that happened. I'm surprised it didn't happen sooner, to be honest with you. And Nicholas Diorio's being smart and he's keeping himself out of it, but people are getting mad at him because he won't go over it, because drama is drama and content's content. And Nick don't want to get drawn in because he don't want to be on the losing side, because there's problems on both sides of the spectrum. Anywho, the reason why I bring this up is DSP talks about, oh, I was friendly with people back in the day. They were associates to you. Just because you walk by someone and someone gave you daps or gave you a head nod, don't make you friends. Well, ironically enough, Flamenco, for those of you who know who he is, you know, he had that same type of relationship with some of those guys over there in the commentator community and didn't realize it until shit fell apart. That none of those guys really liked you. You were kind of just their registered retard who would go around and do shit for them. Well, besides Bo Blacks. And well, Chipster too, maybe to some degree, but mainly Bo Blacks and Flamenco. And, you know, it is what it was. People tolerated you. They didn't like you. They weren't really your friend. Just because they gave you some good advice is because, truthfully, most people don't want to see other people do bad. Especially if it's something that can be corrected. So on and so forth. DSP is the same way. So when DSP tells you that, oh, I was friends with these people, he wasn't. He was just an associate. It is what it is. And I think that really needs to be put out there. Because the only real friends he had was John and Howard. Oh, well, and OJ too, to some extent. And maybe Nelson. But other than that, it is what it was. And I will say this now, for those of you who know, you know, DSP leaving Team Hate was probably the best thing that happened to Team Hate, truth be told. Because DSP was just weighing those guys down. And he was pulling them into beefs online that they didn't need to be pulled into. And yada, yada, yada. So, make of that what you will.
Synonymous, the Mike Watsons, the Alex Valles, the John Choi's, none of them were the people who were really playing. It was other people who were playing and trying to basically learn the differences between PS1 Super Turbo and Arcade Super Turbo. So when we actually played in the tournament, we know what we were doing, right? Instead of bitching about it, which is what it seemed all the OGs were doing, we'll just play the game and learn the differences so we know for the tournament. So for 2 days, I was intense amounts of practice and training, basically, for PlayStation 1 Super Turbo. And during that period of time, I learned...
He actually grinded the game out longer than that, but semantics.
Some major differences about the game, including the fact that some characters were different sizes. They weren't as tall or as short as they were supposed to be, and they had different hitboxes. I found out certain characters did different stun.
He didn't find that out. People had kind of already figured that out already, to be honest with you. There are posts on SRK that prove this. Like, that's bullshit. People have already discovered that. DSP did not figure that out. Does DSP come across as a deep thinker like that? This is someone who doesn't even like training mode. He thinks that it shouldn't even exist in the game. But back in the day, he discovered pixel sizes and differentials and shit, hitbox sizes. Get the fuck out of here.
Amounts than they did in Arcade Super Turbo. I found out that one of my characters, Vega, was incredibly easy to do these complex combos with, which actually was harder to do in the arcade version of the game. So for me, I was like, wow, I might have gotten off a little easy here because...
I'm going to say exit that on that too, because DSP has poor execution. I'll fight anybody on that. His execution isn't great. That's the reason why he was trying to strike down channels or videos. Both. He was trying to strike down channels and videos that were in fighting games, mainly Capcom games, that showed you what your inputs are. Some of those guys are still around. But if you look at DSP's execution and that shit, it tells the tale. His execution is horrible. Horrible. And that's why DSP won't play with executions on, because he knows his executions are bad. But it's easy to blame the stick. It's easy to blame lag. It's easy to blame rollback. Womp womp.
My character's actually better. Now, anyone who practiced knew that. The problem was people were, it's Super Turbo, I'll just show up and I'll just play, right? Because they think, I've been playing this since the 90s. I don't need to practice or anything for all these newcomers that are here. Fuck them. So, what ended up happening was, finally, after 2 days of practice, this tournament starts. And the way that it worked is that it was like a gauntlet. You started in a pool. You had to win a certain amount of wins in your pool to move on and advance to the bracket. Once you advanced to the bracket, you had to win a certain amount of wins to get to the finals, the top 8 that took place on Sunday. So pools were Friday, the bracket was Saturday, finals were Sunday. So I come in on Friday, ready to go. And I was trying to be very, very laid back, very relaxed, and very calm, not cocky at all or anything like that during this tournament, because I knew.
Because he was by himself, there was nobody there to defend him. He isn't from Maryland and whatnot. He's not even part of their crew. You know what I'm saying? He ain't from there. They didn't come out the sandbox together. This is business. So yeah, that's why he kept his motherfucking mouth shut. Straight coward. Straight coward. If you're going to have that type of energy online, man, you better be able to bring that shit when you go out to wherever the fuck you going. Because those are the people he talking shit to. But look at how quickly he fixed his face.
I was in foreign territory. I was in enemy territory. I had no friends there. Everyone was a competitor. And I remember playing Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and losing and getting all pissed off. Saying, fuck, I love this game and I always fucking lose at it.
Yeah, that's what I wanted y'all to hear. Clarification, straight out of the pig's mouth, of his walking ATM status. Now, obviously, you go to Mr. Huffstuff's channel, you've already seen the video of him playing those Florida boys, and how they ain't sat there and passed him around like the low-end prostitute that he was. But I love the fact that he said, I was really good at fucking Marvel vs. Capcom 2. I was great, man. I was one of the top guys in the country. And that's not what you just said here. You said that you were going over there and you were getting beat the fuck up. You love this game, but every time I play it, you lose. How are you the top of anything if you lose all the time? Make it make sense.
Monday. So I come in on Friday, ready to go. And I was trying to be very, very laid back, very relaxed, and very calm, not cocky at all or anything like that during this tournament, because I knew I was in foreign territory. I was in enemy territory. I had no friends there. Everyone was a competitor. And I remember playing Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and losing and getting all pissed off. Saying, fuck, I love this game and I always fucking lose at it. Pissing me off, right? Got all pissy and moany. And then I played Super Turbo. And in my bracket for Super Turbo were 2 great players. One of them's name was Bob Painter, who is a traditional E-Honda player. He's known, throughout the world as an E-Honda player, really well trained one, and he is considered an OG, okay? There was also another person I really admit I can't remember who he was. He was known for his Vega, okay? Now, here's the thing that a lot of people don't realize when it comes to fighting games. If you really want to be good at the game, you can't be a one-trick pony. And what I mean by
He's bullshit. What he's talking about is character specialists, and every game has players who are like that and whatnot. But keep in mind, because DSP is dishonest and stupid, you don't realize that even amongst players who are character specialists have secondaries or pocket characters, and then have third tiers too. Keep that in mind. You tend to play the character that you have the most confidence in, or characters that you have the most confidence in. It is what it is. It's always been that way. You know what I'm saying? Basic muscle memory and conditioning is one of those things. DSP has always been someone to gravitate to cheap characters who have very laxed move sets that can deal out a lot of damage or can inflict stun very quickly so it can cover up his mistakes. If he tries to tell you anything otherwise, then DSP is doing what DSP normally does. He's lying.
that is a lot of these pro players only get good with one character, and then they end up having mismatches. They end up having situations where they're always at a disadvantage if someone counterpicks them.
No matter what character you play, you're always going to be at a disadvantage. Every character comes with pros and cons. On top of that, that's why player matchups, or character matchups, I should say, is important. So even if you are a character specialist, you should understand what the strengths and weaknesses are of your character and their matchups with other people. You can always get around it. You know what I'm saying? Just because you pick the worst character in the game doesn't mean you can't go far. History has proven this. So that's a thing. You know what I'm saying? But your matchup knowledge is very, very important. DSP don't really have that. You know what I'm saying? Or at least not to the extent that he boasts, at the very least.
Or has a character, your main is basically considered a counter to your character.
And this right here goes back to DSP's bullshit about shitting on people who he feel counterpick him, in air quotes, when he's literally admitting that that's what he was doing to other people. DSP always does that. He does that now. You know what I'm saying? When you think about the CVS2 roster, there's a bunch of fantastic characters in that game. But if you're talking about some of your top characters, Cammy, Blanca, Sagat, Bison, obviously, especially depending on the groove that he's in, so on and so forth. And that's primarily those four people, or those four characters, primarily make up his main team, more or less, obviously. Obviously. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, he'll try to branch out and play other characters he's not familiar with, but if he plays someone who he only does that against scrubs or people that he thinks he can take advantage of, once he knows that they're good, he goes right to the top team in the game, or the top characters. So don't ever let him make you think that he is someone who is versatile, right? Or there's range or there's depth to him, because there isn't.
And a lot of the OGs, unfortunately, are one character player. Bob Painter only plays Honda. He could try playing other characters, but when it comes to tournaments, only plays Honda. The other guy only plays Vega, right?
You don't even remember that other guy's name, so how are you going to tell me that he only plays Vega? He only played Vega against you. That doesn't mean that's the only character he plays.
When you really think about it, John Choi, he usually only plays Ryu. Every once in a while, he'll pick old Sagat, but he usually picks Ryu. Same thing with Valle. Usually picks Ryu. He'll have one or two others, but almost 99% of the time, he's going to play with Ryu. So these guys are character specialists. They're not jack of all trades. Me?
And where did jack of all trades get you? Fourth? Oh, let me stop. I'm already... I'm already jumping way fucking ahead. Let him play his situation out.
Let me give you an idea of the cast of characters that I use in Super Turbo. DJ, so projectile zoning character.
You're not good with him. You say that you're like the second best DJ in the world, but you're not. You're not very good with him and whatnot. Yet again, he has a very good moveset where it covers up DSP's mistakes, on top of the fact that a lot of people do not have enough experience against DJ or a Super Turbo DJ to be able to play against them effectively. That's not a cope. That's just honestly what that is.
With some offense mixed in there.
And most people who play DJ, it's like one could make the argument that he's a better Guile, but I don't think so, because I think Guile has better normals, to be honest. I think that DJ has better situational tools, but I think Guile just has overall, even with just Flash Kick and Sonic Boom, I feel like his normals is like 70% of his game. So, but that's just me. Maybe 60%. 65%, let's say that. let's say 60 to 70%. Let's say 60 to 70% of Guile's game revolves around his normals.
Balrog, a rushdown style character. Vega, who can be played both as rushdown and a keep away style character. So those are my three mains when it comes to tournaments. Very, very different gameplay depending on what character I pick.
I mean, the majority of those guys are charged characters, though, except for I think DJ has motions, I think. Yeah, because Rising Up... Well, no, because Rising Upper... Yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah, DJ's a charge character. Because his Fireball, his Rising Kick, his forward kick, as well as his Rising Punch, they're all charged. They're all charges. At least the Super Turbo, anyway. Pretty sure. I don't think he has an actual... Nah, he has to have at least one move that's a motion. He has to have at least one. At least one. Balrog is obviously a charged character, so is Vega. But I want to tell you that DJ has at least one he has at least one special move though that is either a quarter circle motion or a half circle. I'm thinking. His fireball's charged. His Rising Kick is charged. Pretty sure that Rising Punch is a charge. And then his Jackknife is charged. Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he doesn't have any charge moves at all. I mean, maybe he doesn't have any motion moves at all. Maybe they all are charged characters. Maybe all of his moves are charged base specific. Yeah, so they're all charge moves. There's not even the diversity that he's talking about. Even the diversity he's talking about doesn't even exist, except for the fact that Balrog and DJ are black. So you got two brothers in there, and you got a dude from Spain. Is that what your diversity? You know, let me stop. Now I'm just being petty.
So what I found is when I was going into this tournament, I had an advantage because I had a variety of stuff I could alternate through. So I remember playing Bob Painter, and I said, he only picks Honda. This is a shoo-in. DJ, guess what? I ran through Bob Painter. Like, I'm not saying I beat him. I mean, like, I destroyed him. Because it's a complete counter match if you know how to play the match correctly. And
so you counterpicked him. Gotcha.
I do, and I destroyed him. I think he was like, what the fuck just happened? Like, this kid who everyone considers an upstart, you know, a kid who's not an OG.
It's funny that you keep trying to call yourself an upstart, and you try to say new kid, but you hadn't sat there and stopped that shit. When you admitted that you've been to almost every EVO since B4 or B5. So you've been around. Semantics.
Just whooped an OG's ass. And there was like 2 or 3 other people in my bracket who I didn't know, and I beat them pretty convincingly. And then finally I got to the Vega player, and I said, well, you know, I'm not going to pick Vega. So I don't remember if it was Balrog or DJ, but I knew the match, and I beat this guy. So now I made it into the main bracket, and everyone was giving me a pat on the back that day. Congratulations. And it was kind of funny because everybody meaning maybe the few guys that he was rooming with in Maryland decided to give him a pat on the back and be like, hey, you did pretty good there. Not everybody, Phil. You can shut that shit up. But whatever. It's all in the devil's in the snorts. If you got out of your pool, you were called a qualifier because you qualified for day 2. And it was funny because the people who I was hanging out with, remember I said I was hanging out with kind of the Maryland, Baltimore people. It was like Isaac Grant.
That's funny because I thought you said just a minute ago that you were enemy territory and you were by yourself, and that's why you shut the fuck up and didn't talk none of that hot shit. Now you're cool with the Maryland guys because a few of them gave you a pat on the back? Okay, whatever. I'll let you play your cards.
Qualified for Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Great. You know, I qualified for Super Turbo. Great. Someone else qualified for CVS 2. Great. And this one poor guy who was with us didn't qualify for anything, so we pranked him. That morning when we woke up, we said, well, we're all going to qualifiers breakfast this morning. And he goes, what's that? It says, it's a breakfast that you go to if you qualified for today. You can't go if you didn't, so we'll see you later. And we left the room. Oh my God, it was so funny. We left the room and we were like...
You know what that actually kind of reminds me of? This particular story, which is probably bullshit, but whatever. But if we look at the concept of it, it kind of reminds me when you're in school and like you do well on like a test or some shit, and you have kind of like a, what they call it, like teacher-student lunch or some shit like that, or like or maybe like I guess the principal takes you out to lunch if you have like you get like straight A's on your report card or good attendance or some bullshit like that. That's kind of what that reminds me of. That's kind of what this story, I should say, reminds me of, to be honest with you. But you know, I'm just throwing that out there. It doesn't sound like this played out the way he thought, but let me let him finish the story.
Halfway down the hall, and then we turned around and came back, and the guy was like sitting on the bed like this, by himself, like sad as hell. We're like, there's no qualifiers breakfast, you idiot. Get down here with us. It was so funny. We pranked the shit out of him. That was really funny.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I want you to look at this autistic fucking head jerk that he does too when he's laughing it up. Take this in. I've gone back a little further than I wanted to, but we'll be all right.
Funny because the people who I was hanging out with, remember I said I was hanging out with kind of the Maryland, Baltimore people. It was like Isaac Grant qualified for Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Great. You know, I qualified for Super Turbo. Great. Someone else qualified for CVS 2. Great. And this one poor guy who was with us didn't qualify for anything, so we pranked him. That morning when we woke up, we said, well, we're all going to qualifiers breakfast this morning. And he goes, what's that? It says, it's a breakfast that you go to if you qualified for today. You can't go if you didn't, so we'll see you later. And we left the room. Oh my God, it was so funny. We left the room, and we were like halfway down the hall, and then we turned around and came back, and the guy was like sitting on the bed like this, by himself, like sad as hell. We're like, there's no qualifiers breakfast, you idiot. Get down here with us. It was so funny. We pranked the shit out of him. That was really funny. So,
see what I mean about how he's so desperate to belong and shit? Like, even in his stories, and that's really probably all they are stories, to be honest, he's desperate to be included and shit. You know what I'm saying? He's not even comfortable in his own skin. You know what I mean? So he needs the reinforcement, the admiration, or at least the inclusion of other people, which there's nothing wrong with that per se, but any person who can't stand on their own, no one will ever stand by you or behind you. Not for any extended period of time. Word of advice.
Day 2 was quite the ordeal, and here's why I say that. First of all, I have to bring this up. Alex Valle did not enter this tournament. Basically, he claimed he was busy and he couldn't show up. Bullshit. He was like, oh, I'm protesting EVO because they're not holding Arcade Super Turbo. I don't want to enter or whatever, right? Yet he was still there, but he didn't enter.
Yeah, he went there to support his friends because he was boycotting that event. A lot of people did that. There's a lot of people who showed up and did other shit. I don't know if Alex actually played any other games, but he was there to support his friends. So what? What's the point, Phil? What are you making out of this? And the fact that he's watching Valle, even though Valle was, keep in mind, he's supposedly siding with Valle and understanding where Valle is coming from by not wanting this port of the game. But yet he's throwing shade at him, saying, "Oh, well, he talked all that hot shit, but you still showed up. So did you. You entered into the tournament, and one of the reasons why you did it because you knew that some of the tougher competition was boycotting the tournament. They weren't going to play in it. So you can't say shit about you weren't going to try to rub this in their face if you won. And then on top of that, didn't he initially go out there for... let me stop. I'm actually jumping ahead a little bit. I don't want to actually spoil that for you. I'm going to try to show some self-restraint here. But, yeah. You showed up too, and you supposedly were right there with Valle and everybody else who agreed that we don't want to play this version of the game. Womp, womp, womp.
He did not enter the tournament. So, just to give you an idea of the gauntlet of killers, and I'm going to name some names now, people who I played and beat that day in Super Turbo for the PS1, that you might be like, what the fuck? Jason Wilson, Mike Watson. I'm trying to remember. I'm pretty sure I played John Choi and I beat him too. I apologize because this is a long time ago, almost 10 years ago. I'm almost positive I played Choi and he played Old Sagat and I beat him too. Because he could not do a Tiger Uppercut. Because I'm going to explain to you how funny this situation was. And one other person. I beat like 4 killers. Like OG, highly respected, known back in the day for being tournament winners. I ran through everyone. And at the end of that day, people were coming up to me like, what the fuck, dude? Like, you're on fire. You're like the hottest thing right now. You're the hot commodity. We got to hang out with you. Maybe some of that luck will rub off on us.
Now, yet again, remember when I said earlier that he was taking aspects of Justin Wong's story and basically trying to absorb it into himself? Same thing here. You know what I'm saying? And you can see, and actually I can prove this. If you go back, I'm pretty sure I want to say the Chinatown Fair documentary, if you can find it, I'm pretty sure it's on YouTube. If you see all the people that are like hovering around Justin, the way it was explained to me, that's how it was when Justin came onto the scene and he started making a name for himself. Is all these people started to gravitate to him and shit, and all these people were giving him all this aspiration and shit like that, and so on and so forth, right? You know, he started building relationships and building connections, this, that, and the third. So whatever DSP is sitting here talking about, I am pretty confident that he's really talking about what Justin was going through. Because Justin beat a bunch of notable names, obviously, and he ended up becoming friends with most of them during his tournament runs early on. Speaking of which, I'm reading an article, actually, while I'm listening to DSP's bullshit, because multitasking is a thing. Apparently, Justin is joined another org, an esports team, and I guess he's going in as a mentor, maybe even as a trainer type situation. I'll read more of the article and I'll see what's what. But big ups to Justin continuing to do big things in the FGC and esports in general, basically, while DSP is doing what class? Oh, waddling in his own pig shit and piss. Truly, if you believe in justice, things worked out, I guess, for on both sides of the spectrum.
I was like, all right, here's the thing, okay? Those guys didn't fucking practice. What those guys did, they sat and they bitched and moaned about, oh, it's not Arcade Super Turbo. I don't want to play PS1 Super Turbo, wah. Instead of sitting down, which is what I did, sat down with the game for 2 days, played the fuck out of it, and I learned all the differences of the game. And once I knew all the differences of the game, I knew what was going to work in the tournament and what wasn't.
And yet you still took fourth, so obviously you didn't know everything. You learned just enough that you could retain. Let's just call a spade a spade. He learned just enough that he could retain. Kind of Kelly Bundy-ish in that way, if you think about it.
Guys, to give you some perspective, because this is pretty funny, right? They needed to play on joystick, okay? But some of them were used to stand up. So, just to give you some perspective, this is, I'm saying, let's say this is the cabinet. So your hands would be like this and your buttons would be like this. And when you push the buttons, nothing happens. If you have a loose joystick that you're playing with like today on your lap and you try to slam the buttons, the thing goes all over the place and you lose your bearings. These guys were used to being able to play in arcades where they could really yank on the fucking thing and do it and it wouldn't move. So their play style actually didn't convert to console gameplay. It just didn't work. And so it was funny because I remember John Choi.
He's being a tad bit dishonest here too. Let me explain why. So for those of you who give a fuck about FGC history whatsoever, you've heard of the brand called Mass Sticks. Very popular brand. MAS Sticks, Mass Sticks, and whatnot. Those things have been out since like the late 90s. That was like a go-to type thing. It was produced by a husband and wife out in California. Can't remember exactly where now, but and they were basically the go-tos in the market for years before custom arcade sticks was even really a thing. So anybody and everybody, if you wanted the closest thing to an arcade experience at home, you bought a Mass Stick, and it was for I want to say PS2, Xbox, PC. Dreamcast for sure. There might be another one too. And it was only like $10 extra or $15 extra for the guy to wire it to have all these extra extensions for your for whatever consoles that you wanted and whatever. So that was a thing. And a lot of these guys by 2005 either owned them or had played on one of those or was around a group of people who had them. So even what he's saying is being dishonest. I just wanted to throw that out there because I'm petty.
Had this gigantic monstrosity of it was basically a giant wooden box that looked like 6 buttons and a joystick that was mounted on these like 2x4s that went down into this fucking base of this thing like a giant piece of plywood that it was drilled into.
Now I've looked for pictures of this thing. I haven't found it. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It doesn't mean that's a great screenshot, by the way. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It just means that I've been looking for this picture and I haven't found it yet. So I'm sure it'll pop up. But I personally have not found this picture yet. I just want to throw that out there. I'm not actually calling him a liar on the situation, because there was a lot of people back in those days from tournament pictures and videos that I've seen with these guys with some really janky, stick holders or whatever, like some wild ass shit. People playing on milk cartons or milk crates, not cartons, milk crates, all kinds of shit. Wild stuff, wild stuff. But I have yet to find that picture yet. But I'm sure it does exist. Maybe, but I haven't seen it yet.
It was the dumbest thing I've ever seen. And he's standing there trying to play, and as he's trying to play with it, the thing is wobbling all around like it's like the Leaning Tower of Pisa. It was going like this all over. So he's trying to play people. Oh, I'm gonna do Tiger Uppercut when they jump. He wouldn't get it, and then you get destroyed. A big combo. The thing was hilarious. Like, it was laughable because
he's the worst hype beast ever. He really is. He really thinks he out here doing something when he exaggerates these stories. And it's just not very good. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can tell that he's just the mark for wrestling. Like, you know what I'm saying? He can't really give you any depth to the story. He thinks that if the story is as bombastic as possible, that'll draw you in. And drawing people in and holding their interest are two separate things, but we don't need to go that deep. But I always find that when he goes into these older stories back in the day in these older segments, he's terrible at it. He's terrible at telling stories. Absolutely horrible.
Don't want to laugh at him because he's an OG, but the thing's going like this. I'm like, how could he fucking play on that? Like, what is he thinking? So it was quite interesting. So, the bottom line is, by the end of the day, I literally beat like 5 more OG players. The only person I had lost to in the tournament is someone I've never effing beaten Super Turbo. His name's Bucktooth. I don't even know if he fucking plays anymore. I really don't.
He played he obviously plays Super Turbo, but Bucktooth has made quite the name for himself in CVS2 going back years. Even now, you can still find him on you can find matches of him online. Or on YouTube, I should say. He played in Fightcade. I'm pretty sure he's playing the new collection now. You know what I'm saying? He's definitely a CVS2 head and whatnot. I heard about him playing CVS2 long before I even knew he played Super Turbo. I didn't find out about that until I started getting into tractor shit.
I could never beat that motherfucker. He was from Texas. He's an Asian guy, and he usually was known.
He's from Texas, and he's an Asian guy. I don't know the Asian part means anything, but okay. I guess we could just put him in with the other 3 Asians that beat you then, right? So theoretically, you took 5th. If that's the case, since, apparently the Asians had their way with you, which kind of speaks to where some of his prejudice comes from and how pathetic it is, you know what I'm saying? I mean, keep in mind, prejudice and its racism in itself is ignorant and stupid as fuck, which is ironic in a lot of ways. But you could kind of see where DSP tries to justify it. Kind of amazing when you think about it.
For games such as Third Strike and CVS2, but he played Super Turbo over the years. He was pretty good. I could never fucking beat this guy. His Chun-Li, I don't know, it always got my goat for whatever reason. So it was funny because I lost to him and got sent to the losers bracket, but then as I went through the losers bracket, I literally cleaned out the fucking bracket, beating everyone. So now it's a huge controversy because guess what? Finals day. Guess how many OGs were in the finals? 0. They didn't make it. They all got eliminated. They all fucked up in the early stages of the tournament and lost. They didn't make it to the finals. So there was such, oh, how could this be a Super Turbo tournament if the original gamers didn't make it to the finals? Maybe they should have fucking practiced the game. Okay? And so I go to the finals.
Keep in mind, most of the OGs didn't even play. They didn't even enter. So keep that in mind too.
And my first match is against NKI, he's an American, but he lived in Japan for a while, so he's very into Japanese culture, and he plays Chun-Li exclusively. And I've played this guy.
I think NKI won, actually. Actually, here, give me a second. Let me see if I can actually pull up the ranking, because I'm trying to be diligent, right? Right. Huh. Okay, well, first off, NKI... Let me make sure I'm on the right thing here. EVO 2005, Super Turbo. According to what I'm reading right here, NKI took 6th. Bucktooth took 5th. And as it pertains to NKI, they have his classification here as US. He's not ranked as Japanese. Not ranking that he was representing Japan. He was representing the United States at that time. Matter of fact, everybody who was in top 8, sorry, everybody from fourth, basically from DSP to 8th, were all American players. Semantics, but no, he didn't actually win that year. Actually, it was 3 Japanese players. I didn't know if NKI was representing Japan at that time or not. Okay, but no, but NKI took 6 playing Chun-Li. So did Butttooth. He took 6 too by playing Chun-Li. Shit, actually, there was only one Chun-Li player actually. Well, they took 2nd. Interesting. Okay. Anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out there. Interesting. I'm gonna read a little bit more of this.
Tournament before, and he beat me almost every time, right? So we're in tournament, and you can actually watch this. This was recorded. It was on the EVO 2005 DVD. The match I had with him, I played Vega against his Chun-Li, and I ended up beating him.
Actually, I can do you guys one better. His name is Preppy. He where's it? Peppy. It's either Peppy or Preppy. I'll link his channel down in the description. He's for years and years. He actually has a site that has an archive of all this old school tournament footage, like ridiculous, for all kinds of games, fighting games back in the day. He has a YouTube channel too. You can actually find some of DSP's matches from top 8, and especially top 4, but top 8 on that channel too. I'll link both of those things down in the description for y'all, for those of you who care. I'll link his YouTube channel, and I'll also link his site, which is still up. It's been up for years and years, so you can actually see the age of it when you go over there. I think he has combo videos up there too. Back when like people were used to do combo videos. For those of you who know, you guys follow Desk, stuff like that, but just early days of it. Like I said, if I remember to, or if not, I'll have someone else link it down in the description.
So now I was in the position, boom, if I win like 1 to 2 more matches, I could win the whole event. And then my final match in the tournament was against Tokido, who picked a mirror. We did a mirror match of Vega, and he knew a few things about Vega that I didn't about the mirror match.
That's funny, because I thought you knew the ins and outs of the game, though, and your characters' semantics.
And just because he knew those few things, he got the jump on me. And I remember distinctly making 1 to 2 major blunders that people were like, why did he do that? I don't know. You know, I was on the stage, I was playing in front of 1,000 or 2 people, and I was, you know, I fucked up, I admit. He beat me. And so what ended up happening...
So you talk shit about the OG players not making into top 8 because they didn't practice, basically because they didn't practice. You only took 4th because you didn't actually have the player knowledge, experience, or execution that you've been trying to boast in the story that you had. Imagine that.
I got 4th place. The top 3 places were all Japanese players. So I ended up basically being the highest ranking American for Super Turbo that year.
Now keep in mind, the only reason why he says that is because everybody from 5th to 8th were all American players. So basically, America out of 8 places, they took 5. They took 5 places. Bottom 5 actually, ironically enough, bottom 5 out of the 8. So that's why he used that to boast himself, which is still not even a very good boast. It really isn't. It just sounds like cope. Massive fucking cope.
Which was so much, Darksydephil, he placed that high in a tournament. How could this is bullshit.
It was, because the version of the game they're playing was bullshit. It is what it was. And the Japanese beat him off of pure fundamentals. So there you go on that.
Proves that console versions will never be accepted. Of course, today, for every game except Super Turbo, we all play console versions, because this was where it was going. But those OGs just didn't want to let go. Okay.
Oh, wow. Now, keep in mind, he was right there with them when he said that they should be playing on console, or they should be playing on cabinets instead of consoles, especially back in those early days. And there are YouTube videos that back this up, too. I've done a couple of them, I think.
Now, after the tournament, basically Valle shows up. Oh, that's a joke tournament. Let's have the real tournament now. And we all went to a hotel room. We moved that giant cigar bob cabinet into the hotel room, and we actually hooked up arcade Super Turbo, and we had like the tournament after the tournament after the tournament. Now keep in mind, it's like the middle of the night. It's like 2, 3 a.m. and they wanted me to be in it. I said, fine, I'll be in it, but I was tired and I lost. And they're like, oh, see, so Phil, got that high in the tournament, but now he lost quick in this one. Obviously, that means that he sucks and it means nothing. No, it means that I was in the fucking tournament room playing games all day and winning, right? While you weren't even fucking here.
I think John Choi, don't hold me to this, but I'm pretty sure John Choi won that hotel tournament, I think, and he was there as long as you were, to be honest. So, what's your excuse exactly? Huh? Little Philip? What's your excuse? Suffer, Philip! Suffer!
You show up after the event and now you want to play me competitively when I'm all drained from playing all weekend. It's bullshit. You know, they're all, oh, I beat him after. Doesn't like that matters. No. EVO results will forever show I was the best Super Turbo player that year, period. It doesn't matter if you put 4,000 asterisks next to it, if you say that you had oh, my toe hurt that day, or oh, I had the sniffles and I couldn't play, oh, my joystick wouldn't stop spinning like the Leaning Tower of Pisa. I won.
And you won what? When says great screenshot, by the way. When is fourth place winning? I won. Let me bring that back. Because I'm petty as fuck. Let me bring that back. I won. Won what? What did you win?
After the event, and now you want to play me competitively when I'm all drained from playing all weekend. It's bullshit. You know, they're oh, I beat him after. Doesn't like that matters. No. EVO results will forever show I was the best Super Turbo player that year, period. It doesn't matter if you put 4,000 asterisks next to it, if you say that you had oh, my toe hurt that day, or oh, I had the sniffles and I couldn't play, oh, my joystick wouldn't stop spinning like the Leaning Tower of Pisa. I won.
He won what? Oh, I'm so stunned. You won what? What is it that you won, Phil? Holy shit. But do you guys see why for over a decade he carried this whole thing on? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, keep in mind, this was something that was on his ass before even he got caught jerking off on stream. Fourth place at EVO 2005. That was the thing that he used to get mocked for before he jerked off on stream. I think getting mocked for you thinking that fourth place at a tournament means something in a shitty port is probably a lot better than being remembered for the guy who jacked off on stream, but make of that what you will.
And no one can take that shit away from me, okay?
Yeah, I can't take it away from you, but I can mock it all the hell and back. You can definitely do that.
Now,
the
final thing that I'm going to say, and this is going to piss fucking people off. I know it is. Because I lied to everyone and I said...
Oh, I lied to everyone. Imagine that. DSP telling the truth. Oh, boy. We'll play it out, and then I'm going to bring it back, just to let y'all know.
Oh, yeah. Dude, I've been playing Super Turbo like crazy. I've been going nuts playing it, practicing for EVO, and I really put it... The truth of the matter is this. I shit you not.
Now, let me give some context of what he's actually talking about here. Remember how I said, and you guys probably heard, for those of you who've been around for a while, you've heard me say that DSP bought the copy, if he didn't already own it, and he had been grinding it out for over a week or so and whatever, and then he flew out there early to play it and said a third. That's what he's talking about. He's saying that he lied and that never actually happened. It did happen. It's obvious that it happened. DSP is not fucking some savant. Well, no, he's definitely not a savant. DSP is not some savant who was able to figure out all the ins and outs of the game in 2 days and still took fourth. As funny as that would sound, it's not true. He's a fucking dumbass. He grinded that shit out for weeks leading up to the tournament, got out there early so he could play for a few extra days. If I want to tell you almost a week, but at least a few extra days, so that's 3 to 4 and whatnot, and he still took fourth. End of story. But now he's going to retroactively go back and say in 2014, because remember, he'd been lying about this for years. You know what I'm saying? Because this was in 2005. He's carried this lie till 2014. Now in 2014, he want to come up and tell the truth. He wants to sit there and try to retroactively fucking throw the shackles of his lies off and liberate himself with the truth. Sure, Phil. What? Gotcha. Yeah, gotcha. And every time Cat and Panda said they were satisfied, they were telling the truth. I'm sure.
I went to EVO to play Marvel vs. Capcom 2. I didn't go there to play Super Turbo. In fact, I didn't have a local arcade that had Super Turbo. In fact, I didn't own Super Turbo. I had no means to practice Super Turbo. The only time that I ever played Super Turbo was when I went to a tournament to play something else, and they happened to have a Super Turbo cabinet there. Never did I ever actively practice the hell out of Super Turbo up until 2005, and the bottom line is...
Let him play his cards out.
The first time I ever played the PS1 version of the game was at EVO. I never touched it besides then.
You know how pathetic that is? That now you lied about this thing for years, only to dispel the lie now, thinking that that's supposed to bolster your 4th place finish? Jesus Christ, that's pathetic. Let's go back to the lie, though. Because it's not a lie. It's obviously not a lie. He's doing this just to try to bolster himself and try to, yet again, one of the many pathetic attempts to prop up his 4th place finish. Holy shit. Massive fucking coat. Massive fucking coat.
I'm going to say, and this is going to piss fucking people off. I know it is. Because I lied to everyone.
And this right, you know how pathetic this is? This is like DSP fucking, this is the snakening against the FGC, basically. You know that 4th place finish you guys mocked me for? Remember how I told you guys I grinded out for weeks and this, that, and that? I didn't. I did everything in 2 days. Yeah. See? You guys feel stupid now, don't you? You guys thought I really put in all this effort and all this bullshit, and I didn't. I did it all in 2 days. Yeah. Yeah. It was me. It was me, Alex Valle. It was me, John Choi. It was me, Japanese players. It was me all along. Shut that shit up.
And I said, oh yeah, dude, I've been playing Super Turbo like crazy. I've been going nuts playing it, practicing for EVO, and I really put in... The truth of the matter is this, I shit you not. I went to EVO to play Marvel vs. Capcom 2. I didn't go there to play Super Turbo. In fact, I didn't have a local arcade that had Super Turbo. In fact, I didn't own Super Turbo. I had no means to practice Super Turbo. The only time that I ever played Super Turbo was when I went to a tournament to play something else, and they happened to have a Super Turbo cabinet there. Never did I ever actively practice the hell out of Super Turbo up until 2005, and the bottom line is, the first time I ever played the PS1 version of the game was at EVO. I never touched it besides then. So, literally...
So then... How did you find out what the nuances of the game was when you said that Cigar Bob's cabinet had Arcade Perfect Super Turbo then, Phil? Think about what he's saying. Think about what he's telling you. He's saying that he never touched the Street Fighter Collection to play the PS1 port of Super Turbo, ever. Never played it until he got to EVO that year. But he said that he had grinded out on Cigar Bob's cabinet, which actually had Arcade Super Turbo on it. That same Arcade Super Turbo that they used in the tournament, that they used to have that secondary tournament after DSP took 4th. So all that bullshit about character sizes and nuances with moves and properties and all that, where did all that come from then, Phil? Don't worry, I'll wait. Where did it come from? How did it happen? Terrible liar. It's a terrible scum-sucking liar.
Because I wasn't being a whiny bitch about it being the PS1 version of the game. In 2 days, I learned enough of the PS1 version to basically be the best player at it at EVO, which if these OGs...
If he was the best player at it at EVO, wouldn't he have won EVO? Semantics.
Had just bothered to do that, instead of whining and bitching and stamping their feet and complaining about the controls, they might have done better, right? But instead, they wanted to be the whiners and the complainers because they can't get their way, and they left the door wide open for me to step in and take the whole thing, which is what I did.
You stepped in and took the whole tournament. How? I don't... Am I wrong, ladies and gentlemen? Did he win the tournament and I'm just not... I mean, he is a massive liar, so who's to say? But then again, I just read the tournament results, and he's not Japanese, so that's not a thing. So how did he... Well, what the fuck? Holy shit. I won everything. These guys fucked up. I didn't actually play the game. I lied from 2005 till now, 2014. about actually grinding the game out. I never did. And because these guys didn't play and win, I'm the one who stepped in and won the whole damn thing. But you took fourth. Huh? All right. And then the screenshot's fantastic. It only helps cement the lie and the shame. And then he probably hasn't bathed that day either, so God knows what he smells like. Holy shit, Phil.
So, how do you like that? 2 days of practice, and I beat every OG in the building just because I was the one.
So I want you to think about this too, because I'm going to be a dickhead about this. So from 2005 to 2014, he propagated this bullshit. 9 years. 9 years. And after 9 years, then you decide to come out and admit that it was all a lie? Why? What needs does that serve for you? What purpose does that have? Don't worry, I'll wait.
Who was willing to put in the time and effort and to dedicate myself to learn the version of the game instead of the people who just wanted to whine and complain about it. And that's literally as soon as I got home. Oh, that victory means nothing. It's an empty victory because it's PS1 version. I'm like, I didn't pick the version of the game. EVO did. I practiced the version that was at EVO and I won.
Won what? Won what? This is a great screenshot. Won what? W-O-N. What? What did you win, Phil? What did you win? What is this? What's this, a Punic victory? Like, what are you talking about? What are we talking about here, ladies and gentlemen? I'm about to get in my Allen Iverson shit. We talking about fourth. You want me to go ahead and do all this shit for fourth? He's sitting here running through these hoops. He's doing this mental gymnastics for fourth. Is that what we really talking about, ladies and gentlemen? Fourth? He won? Getting fourth? Okay, bruh. Okay, bruh. Oh, shit. Holy shit. Fourth. We going through all this bullshit for fourth. Oh my God, brother. Mental fuckery.
Maybe you should have done that too. And since then, oh, that was it. Phil's a dick. Well, how dare he speak to people like that? Whatever. You know what? The bottom line is, no one can ever take that placing away from me, right? And in future years, I ended up winning EVO qualifiers and stuff in other versions of Super Turbo, so you can't just say I was only the best at that one version. In subsequent versions that they played at EVO, I also did very well in.
You didn't take fourth. You didn't win every one of the, first off, you didn't win all those qualifiers. And when it comes to EVO for Super Turbo in 2006 and 2007, he never hit fourth place or above. It's a fluke, Phil. I know you're really, really fucking stupid, but it's a fluke. Hate to break. Well, I don't hate to break it to you. Sorry, but I'm not sorry. Fuck you. It was a fluke.
But that was the one year where everything kind of came together. It was nuts, and it was funny because when I got back from this trip.
And then this fucking mentally ill fucking midget ain't sat there and lied for 9 years. For 9 years, he held this lie up. Just so he could turn around and boast and say, oh, I took fourth place, but instead of me grinding it for weeks like I told y'all, I did it all in 2 days. That doesn't boast to you, bruh. Even the people who participated in that tournament don't talk about that tournament. They don't care. So you're literally trying to get clout and valor from a tournament that people who were in it don't even acknowledge. God damn, that's wild, son.
I actually ended up getting the job at Best Buy. It ended up paying a decent amount of money. And I was able to at least afford the bills, stay in the apartment, the 3-bedroom apartment that I was in at the time, and basically support myself for years to come. I could never pay down the credit cards until I did this YouTube thing. And then this YouTube thing tremendously has helped me to pay off my credit card debt. And now, now I'm going back into debt because I'm moving. Great.
Yeah, and then 6 years later, your ass ended up going in the bank, going damn near insolvent, and then had to, well, he wasn't really insolvent, but you know what I mean. And ended up having to get a bankruptcy in 2020. Yeah, it makes sense, Phil. Good job, Phil. Good job. Lied for 9 years about some dumb shit that didn't mean anything. He had to use YouTube to get his ass out of debt. YouTube essentially put his ass back into debt because he ain't sat there and ran up credit cards to keep this facade that he was somehow YouTube royalty, right? Took out bank loans to keep up the facade that he was somehow YouTube fucking royalty, and then had to get a bankruptcy fucking 6 years after that. I gotta tell you, 20 years of fucking failure. Jesus Christ. It's something special.
All right. So, excuse me. So, there you have it. Oh my god, look at it. Already we got an idiot. Fort isn't taking the whole thing, blah, blah, blah. Shut up. You know what? I didn't say I won EVO. I said I was...
Did he not say multiple times that he won? Did he not say that if the OGs and whatnot had actually practiced the game, they wouldn't have left the door wide open for him to come in and take everything? Did he not say that? Oh my god. Oh, fucking A. I hope this detractor shit has a good retirement plan. It don't, but it's funny to say that. I hope it has a good retirement plan because Jesus Christ, bro, it's fucking tough, son. It's tough.
The highest placing American. Enjoy your lifetime ban, idiot. Okay, so that's it for my EVO 2005 story. I'm now going to take a short break, probably less than 5 minutes, and we're going to come back and have about 15 to 20 minutes of callers on Skype. The Skype name is Darksydephil, but it's not open yet, so don't bother sending it yet. I'll tell you when I am accepting it when I come back. Again, if you're watching on Twitch, stick around. If you're watching this on YouTube, just skip to the next portion. I'll put a timestamp in the description so you can do that, okay? Thanks, everyone, and I'll be right back.
It's the same scowl that he has now when he fucking leans into fucking change over a stream or whatever. Nothing's changed. Oh, baby. Baby, 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 baby. It's the fuckery, ladies and gentlemen. The absolute fuckery. Oh my god. Alright, yeah, we're going with this. We're going with this. We have to go with this. Holy shit. Holy shit. I am... Oh man, that's fucking crazy. And the thing is, right? The thing is, like, out of all the bullshit and everything that he spewed through that, him lying or admitting that he lied for 9 years, saying that he grinded this game out and did all this for weeks on end leading up to EVO 2005, only to retract and say that he only really dedicated 2 days, this, that, and the third is fucking... That's already silly as fuck. But then the fact that he ain't sat there and said, you've heard him say, because I actually brought that shit back on repeat a couple times, him saying that he won. He came in and it opened the doors for him to take it all. It was fourth, bruh. Fourth. I gotta tell you. And people wonder how is it that people stuck with DSP, detracting him, I should say, for as long as they did. Boy, he's the cow that just keeps on giving. The milk isn't very good. Not to say that it ever was. But fucking A, bro, can you get your miles out of that shit? And like I said, I understand that for those of you who love the current stuff and whatever, because it's current, it's new, it's fresh, I get it. But boy, there are diamonds. There are fucking diamonds and shit. Out in the lore, in the old shit. You know what I'm saying? There's still there's plenty of diamonds out there. Not even that, there still is. There's plenty of diamonds out there just waiting to be discovered. Holy shit. Anywho, make of that what you will. Like, that's fucking silly. Just silly ass shit, bro. I'm stunned. And it just gives a whole new complexity to the DSP fourth place finish. Or at least I hope I've given you at least a new perspective. It's absolute fuckery, bro. Just absolute fucking fuckery. Holy shit. Anywho, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening in. I very much appreciate it. Holy shit. I will catch you for the next one of these, whenever that may be, hopefully sooner than later. It's amazing what fourth place can do to a person. All of that for fourth. You lied for 9 years to prop up and boast your fourth place. Like, your life don't got no meaning to you, bruh. But but here, think about this as we part ways. He was damn near suicidal leading up to that tournament. If you really think about it, he damn near had there's a reason why he clutched, and still does, but he clutches to fourth place the way he does. He damn near made it sound like when he lost that job at Wells Fargo, that was the end of his motherfucking life. As if mommy and daddy weren't there to prop his ass up. stunned, bruh. Just absolutely stunned. Just stunned. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening in. I very much appreciate it. I'll catch you guys for the next one of these, whenever that may be. Hopefully sooner than later. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Snort Report. This has been DSP News. Always late, never breaking. Unreliable coverage that you can't count on. Oh, yes. A GTG Network and Productions for the Snort Report. SnortBucks Coffee Company. Hard Snorts Gin and Tonic. I've been your host / anchor, GTG, and I'm signing off. Take care of yourselves, my people. I won! I won! I never thought fourth. Holy fuck, bro. Winning at fourth. Who would have thought? Take care, people. Later. This is true love we're making. This is true love we're making.